Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And we're back with our second podcast of the week. And it's a special one because we've got two leagues kicking off this weekend, Zach. It's very exciting. The Canadian Premier League and the BC Premier League both finally get underway with a string of matches. Looking forward to it. So this is going to be our CPL special. We've got a lot we're going to talk about. We're going to preview the season as a whole, look at the key additions and departures and just how we feel each team is going to fare. We've got a couple of fun interviews to bring you for the show as well. So a lot that we're going to get into. So this is the first show of a new month. So that means we're going to pay a special thanks to all of our AFTN Extra Podcast Gold Tier members. If you're not a subscriber or a member yet of the AFTN Extra Podcasts, head along to aftn.ca and you can find out how you can be. For only $3 a month, $30 a year, or become a silver tier member at $5 a month, or a $10 a month gold tier member, which also gets you a readout on the show, as does anyone that has made a big donation along the way as well. So I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Cade Strelaw, Gib Van Aert, William Walls, Jason Schmidt, Daniel Dang, Greg McCracken, Karsten Shrimpton, Carol Mudzamba, Curtis Venos, and Darren Hawes. Thank you to everyone that supports us, donates and subscribes to the AFTN Extra Podcasts. Your help really does make a difference to all the work we do here at AFTN. Also, want to give a big thanks and a shout out to Darren and Rowan for your lovely comments that we had this past week, and also your generosity as well. Now, Zach, I gave you the weekend off, so we've got a lot of international football to talk about, but I thought, because we're mostly going to focus on the CPL and it's going to be a long show, we'll keep our Canada national team chat for the two games until the next show. So we'll talk Whitecaps Portland and that, and we'll talk the two Canadian national team games. Two draws, two very mixed performances, so we'll get into all of that next time. Also, we learned this week, after 899 qualifying games, we now know all the teams that will be taking part in the 2026 World Cup. Well, depending on what happens with Iran. We'll delve into some of that next time as well. But we do know that the very first game that will be played in the World Cup in Vancouver on Saturday, June 13th, is now going to be Australia versus Turkey. And we learned that Canada's very first opponents the day before in their home opener in Toronto is not going to be Italy. It is still going to be a case of blue and red in the stands, as they'll be taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Unlike the U.S.-Belgium match, at least when you look at the crowd, you'll be able to see the difference between the red and the blue. Did you watch the U.S.-Belgium match?
I've seen a couple of the goals.
Kirk and I put on the like 10 or 17-minute highlight package, and I was just like, if it wasn't for the dark blue American shorts, I would not have known who had the ball.
Oh,
Like,
you mean on the pitch? I thought you meant in the
yeah.
stands.
No,
Oh, no,
on
yeah,
the
on the
pitch.
pitch. But do you know why?
Why? No, I don't.
Both teams only brought one kit.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. But okay, that makes sense.
And
That's
it's so
ridiculous.
crazy because even at youth level, you have
Yeah,
discussions before the game. What colour of kit are you wearing?
yeah.
Okay, we'll bring this one.
Oh, I just thought maybe it was like maybe because I have bad eyes and color or whatever. I know because the Belgian one is like actually I thought it was white, but it's actually like light blue with
Hmm.
pink or something. But I thought it was just my eyes, and Kirk's like, no, it's not what
Oh
it's not
no,
white.
it was
But
awful. And it's because like Belgium's fine. Yeah, we've brought one kit. I mean, America, you're at home. Surely you can have two sets of kits there.
awkward.
Very. But
It's
yeah.
okay. Belgium smashed them, so it's fine.
Oh,
But
what
the
time is it?
exactly. I saw actually. I sent Poppy a text today. Whoa! I sent Kendall a text today saying, "What time is it?" And he responded with the real time. And I said, "No, Poppy." I said it's 5 past Liberia because they beat Liberia 5-1 in the cup.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have more Canada and World Cup chat in the next episode of the show. We want to focus on the CPL stuff, but before we get into that, we're going to start this show the way we have many this year with the next instalment of our Canadian Soccer A to Z. We move now into the second half of our Canadian Soccer A to Z. We're up to the letter N. I get to go first this episode, and I am going for one of the most important advancements of the Canadian game in recent years, a long overdue advancement in the Canadian game, as in 2025, Canada got its first ever professional domestic women's league. The Northern Super League kicked off. Vancouver Rise were crowned the inaugural champions. Long overdue, all the hard work from Diana Matheson and her team. And I covered Diana in the last episode of the show as one of our emissions for M. But, I mean, Zach, so long people have needed this. After the World Cup in 2015, you're looking for the legacy. It took 10 years to get there, and it took a player in the end to really start to kickstart things and get all the businesses on board, get this up and running. A lot of failings along the way in the last 10 years, 20 years, longer. And although we've had professional teams here in Canada, Ottawa Fury, Vancouver Whitecaps, of course, finally a league for Canadian women to call their own. And it was a very good inaugural season. That will be starting off later in April as well for their second season. So I think for me, that had to be the N, the Northern Super League.
Nice, really good choice. I'm going to go with something actually. It does kind of touch on some names we already spoke of, but I didn't want to go with another player. I didn't want to go with another. I could have. Well, we'll have some honorable mentions, I guess, in a few minutes. But I went with straight up the number 9, as in not
Ooh,
people who
like
wore
that.
not people who wore the number 9, although one or two of them did. But
But you're traditional
yeah,
centre
your
forward.
center forward striker. So I'll go over a few people who I hold up in this role from both the women's team and the men's team. So on the women's side, obviously you can't go anywhere but Christine Sinclair. 190 goals says it all. But other great number 9s for Canada. We mentioned her, I think, under H. Charmaine Hooper is a big one. Silvana Bertini. I caught the end of her career in the late 90s and early 2000s. Another one, I know maybe hasn't scored as many goals as people would like, but Jordan Hoytema is another example for me, as well as someone like Melissa Tancredi, who's still obviously involved with the sport in a different capacity. And another one She played as a forward. I know she doesn't always play as a forward. Janine Becky, or Janine Sonis, as she's now known by her married name. Those are just kind of a handful of who stand out for me on the women's side. On the men's side, yeah, there's a bunch. And again, for me, I'm thinking more like traditional, like center forward. So some of the people, some of the people I kind of left off my list because I consider them either more like wide players or not real number nines. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's some great players, in the squad right now. People like Jonathan David would be kind of in that list for me. I know he doesn't have the repertoire, but he's new. But Michael, and our listeners probably know that I also love Promise David as a number 9 and have high hopes for what he can do, and wish him all the best on his road to recovery. But then there's also some, older players. And number 9 that I think I first saw play for Canada in 1994 was John Catliff, kind of a big, like lumbering center forward who scored a bunch of goals for Canada.
Still heavily involved in the game here in BC.
Yeah. Kyle Larin, again, he doesn't always play through the middle, but I think he deserves it I mentioned for all the goals he scored. He's over 30 now for Canada. One last one, and this was kind of in the mid 2000s. Ali Gerba, kind of a typical center forward. Big, strong, respectable in the air. And
I mean, big really was certainly the word that came into my head when you mentioned him there.
But yeah, anyways, then the number 9.
That's a good one. I'll give you one of my notable mentions. Nova Scotia Soccer. An apology to New Brunswick here, because I'm not doing one for New Brunswick. Nova Scotia was slightly easier for obvious reasons. But on the club side, you've got Halifax Wanderers. Always looks an amazing atmosphere. One day we'll get to a game out there. Halifax tied in the aforementioned NSL. You think of Nova Scotian players, and right now, the Maritimes messy. Jacob Schaffelberg is obviously one of them. And university-wise, for a small province, 3 different universities have won the U Sport Women's Nationals. Dalhousie from Halifax 3 times, Acadia once, Cape Breton once, 2 on the men's side, Cape Breton twice, and Dalhousie once. So it's a small province, punches above its weight. We're going to be getting a Maritimes Premier League as well, which hopefully then will help grow players from Nova Scotia, PEI, just everywhere in the Maritimes to try and maybe get more professional facilities for these guys to break through. But yeah, that's one of my honourable mentions, Nova Scotian soccer. One
of my honourable mentions would be David Norman the 5th and David Norman the 6th. Longtime friends of both of us and the show. Obviously David the 5th, played in the World Cup for Canada. David the 6th played local here for the Whitecaps, Pacific, Vancouver FC, Cavalry, Inter Miami, over in Ireland, and yeah,
good one. My last notable mention: CPL, North Star Shield, North Star Cup. I love that they're named after that. So got to mention those 2 trophies as well.
Thank you for not hoisting up a microwave plate.
I don't have a microwave. We got rid of a microwave years ago, and we've been fine without one.
Really?
Wow. I mean, there are times that I've seen stuff in grocery stores and it's like microwave only, and I'm like, damn it, that would have been nice.
But you have an air fryer now, right?
We've got an air fryer, yeah. Kayla's got one at work as well, microwave, so she can take stuff to work.
Yeah. Those are brilliant. Yeah, I don't really love them. I try and use the microwave as little as possible.
But we were as well, and it's like I just thought, let's see if we can get by without it. It took up too much space on our limited counter in the kitchen. So yeah, we got rid of it. But that was our ends. Let us know if you think we've missed anything or anyone out, and we'll be back next week with the letter O. So let's now get into the meat and potatoes from this show as we bring you our 2026 Canadian Premier League preview a lot to chat about over the next few parts. We'll have some audio for you as well. It's season 8, Zach. It feels like a pivotal season for the league in many, many ways. They've lost another team. They've added a team. We had CPL Commissioner and CMSE CEO James Johnson on the show 2 shows ago. He's very bullish about the season to come and what lies in store. We'll talk a little bit about some of that in this part. But like heading into season 8, you've been there from the start. How are you feeling for 2026 for the league in general?
Yeah, I mean, every year feels like an important year for a league when you're so young, right? Same thing with, as you mentioned earlier, NSL going into year 2. Yeah, they're still, I mean, even with year 8 for the CPL, it still feels like foundational. Like they're still laying the foundation, and it feels maybe more so that way because, finally the league will have its first club in Quebec and Supra, and so definitely laying a foundation there for the league. And the league has, although it has captured the imaginations of some, it hasn't captured enough imaginations yet. And it's still an uphill struggle for the league to do so. And yeah, this, like you said, it's a big year. A lot of what the league has done has been building up to this year, trying to steadily grow, but hoping that this year and the exposure to football in this country and on this continent will help propel them as much forward as possible. And we've had different conversations over the years about, what the actual probability of that is, or how much the propelling will take place. But it's a huge, huge year for them.
Yeah. And we'll talk about a few of the things that make it so huge in this part, and then we'll kind of look at each team and everything as well. But I mean, you talk about capturing people's imagination. So it's a World Cup year. There's going to be a lot of focus on football this summer. I think every club hopes that they can get a boost from the World Cup, and that's in MLS, that's in CPL, NSL, probably even youth clubs to get more participation and folk wanting to be the next Jonathan David if Canada have a good World Cup. In the last episode of the show, we had author Murray Mollard on. That was one of the things we talked about. And obviously, we'll talk a lot more about this in the build-up to the World Cup and post-World Cup. There's a short break for the CPL during the World Cup, but they are going to be playing some matches when the tournament is on. Do you feel that the league can get a real boost from the tournament being here?
I don't know that they'll get a huge boost of like bums and seats, right? Like I'm sure there will be some groundhoppers who are in the right cities at the right time. Like it's not even so much during the tournament. Like I'm my plan, which is not in, I mean, the concrete isn't dry on my plan yet, but my plan is to be in Montreal for the Canada game against Ireland. And then that affords me the opportunity to attend 1, 2, 3 CPL games if I'm lucky in a super match, if things work out right. And I'll go to York 9 or York 9 and 4. Sorry, not York 9. York Inter Toronto.
I was like, you've gone way back. I didn't know you're taking a time machine on your trip to see Montreal, Ireland.
But yeah, anyways, so there is that. But like I was talking to Flo about it, and yeah, like none of those really work. None of those really work for him. He asked me about Flo asked me about the Pacific game that's here, right, like whatever it is, right before the tournament, the 10th or whatever. There's a Wednesday night, and he's like, "You'll be at that game, right?" I was like, "No, I'm going to be in Ontario. I'll be at Forge or Inter Toronto that day." So even people like that, groundhoppers are looking at everything that they can get into, but
oh yeah, I mean the stadiums will certainly get folk looking to visit. I mean it's more post World Cup. Can
yes,
the league get a benefit of people just going football crazy?
that's the hope, right? Like,
I know, because it's like we talk about it a lot, and it is the hope. But the more I've thought about it, I don't really know that it's going to happen. Not just for CPL, but just in general.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see all. It's hard to imagine that it will play out the way they want it to. But I mean, I'm hopeful it'll get some kind of increase, but it's just how much, right? Like,
Hmm.
because the thing is now, football, like so many things in our world, is it's global, right? So if you enjoy the World Cup and you're like, I want to watch these players, generally you can access the leagues they're in, through international broadcast rights in one way, shape, or form. And then maybe that's doesn't allow you to engage with your local club, or, hinders people from engaging with their local club, which would
Yeah.
be what the CPL is hoping for.
One of the big things, though, just to get your normal run of the mill Canadian soccer fan interested in the league, as we've banged on about for 7 years now, is get the games where people can see it without having to pay behind a paywall. Now, One Soccer does great work. They promote the game so well here. They have every CPL game. For me on Telus, it's $5 a month. An absolute bargain for the football content that you get on the channel, not just the CPL, but just in general. They've got all the national team games, they've got the CONCACAF tournaments. So One Soccer is great. But for your general fan, they want to be like flicking through channels and it's like, oh, there's a game on. What is this? Oh, it's a Canadian Premier League game. Watch it, enjoy it, and then, oh, I need to find out more. Is there a team near me? I should get out to this, etc., etc. Now, James Johnson told us on the show a couple of weeks ago that it's going to be now the CPL's on linear TV, and it kicks off this Saturday with the Forge Ottawa game on CBC. A lot of folk don't have TSN. A lot of folk don't have Sportsnet. Everyone can get CBC. And that, for the league, is the way forward. And it's something that the NSL have done very well with getting the games in that. The CPL did in year one. And then I'm not sure what happened after that. But it's great now that CBC are picking up games again.
Yeah, it's a huge step forward, as will be the finalization of whatever's going to happen in terms of their legal struggles. But having more access, you're right. It is massive, huge.
And we should stress as well, like we're recording this early in the week, so it's going to come out on Thursday. Things could have changed and things could have been announced after we've recorded stuff. So we don't know the full linear TV situation. I'm expecting that it is going to get announced probably right after we finish recording this or right after we put this out. But I mean, it's great news. And there's a lot of change in the CPL this year. One of them is the new offside rule. I'm excited to see it. I do have genuine concerns, not from the man in the middle, woman in the middle referee point of view. It's more the assistant referees and how quickly they can adapt to it.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be. Yeah, it's. I was talking to someone recently about it. It's a monumental change, and yeah, how are the tactics going to adapt to that? How quick or how slow will they adapt to it? It's going to be really, really, really interesting to see how that plays out.
Every forward or defender we speak to in the first few weeks of the season, though, we've got to ask them the question, how do they like this rule? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how it plays out. I like it. I think it's good, and I think it's something that is needed, and it gets away from, oh, his toenails offside and stuff like that that just annoys the hell out of me. But the rules only be going to be as good as the officiating, and officiating has been a big issue in the league for years, and it's one of those things that just needs more investment. Now, VAR light, well, it's more video review is coming in than VAR light, where coaches can like do some appeals. We've seen it in youth FIFA tournaments, and I really like it.
Yeah. It will be anything like that will be a step forward, right? Like it'd be helpful for the league. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Now, the league has also been rebranded, and there's a whole new logo for it with that as well. League One BC, as was, BC Premier League, as it is now called, have also had the same kind of rebrand. I couldn't help but think when I was watching the Canada games, why on earth did they not also rebrand the Canada Soccer crest? It just looks so old-fashioned and amateur when you see it on the jersey or see it anywhere.
Yeah.
World Cup year, folk buying jerseys, and you look at that, and it looks like someone came up with it on MS Paint.
I think Kevin Blue, I can see him doing that down the road.
Yeah, this just felt like the year to do it.
Yeah, but I also feel like they have it's like they got bigger fish to fry.
True. I mean, I like the new CPL rebranding. I like how it looks. Like the colour scheme. Still not a big fan of everything being Premier League, because I think that devalues then what a Premier League is actually meant to be. But it looks sharp, it looks modern, and that's where Canada Soccer's logo unfortunately doesn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's a big year for the league. Getting into Montreal, getting into Quebec just in general was massive. You've got the CSM&E taking over from Canadian Soccer Business. You've got the new reworking, as James Johnson talked about, with Canada Soccer, the new deal, linear TV access, new rules in the league. There is so much to be excited about. I can't wait for the action to kick off this weekend. So let's have a look at the teams, the runners and riders for 2026. And we'll kick that off after the first song from our new Artist of the Month.
Hi, I'm Martin Nash, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
All that I possess is my existence, vagrant more or less. Children on the pave, my divide would help me through my day. This bar of cigarettes, for which my heart will leap and nipple laugh. A debt to you, my friend, I owe, but I'm afraid I can't repay. Because I chose, street life is my home, from place to place I like to roam. Call when blows I do my bones, call when blows I do my bones.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's a new month. You know what that means. It's a new Artist of the Month here at AFTN. And we've gone back to a band, I don't know why I haven't featured them before. They are from Oldham in England. The band is the Inspiral Carpets. And kicking off this part, their iconic sound of Clint Boone's organ, the distorted guitars, a fantastic band that have been on the go since 1983. They went on a brief hiatus following the death of their drummer Craig Gill in 2016, but they got back together in 2022. They're back touring regularly. They've got their original lead singer, Stephen Holt, now fronting the band. No new material has been released. The band released 5 albums so far, 25 singles, 8 EPs. There's some compilation albums as well of their singles, B-sides, Peel sessions, stuff like that. Kicking off their residency here at AFTN, that was the band's second single release, Joe. It was released on May 2nd, 1989, independently. And it was the song that really started to get them attention. It was the first song of theirs I know that I heard. It reached number 5 in the UK indie charts, and it doesn't feature on any of their studio albums. I've seen the band live a couple of times. Excellent band, excellent sound. Hope you will enjoy what we bring you off them over the course of the month. And whenever I play Inspiral Carpets, I think of my good friend Mandy Bryce, who I lost contact with, Zach, and on the off chance that she somehow has stumbled on to listen to a Canadian soccer podcast, would love to reconnect with Mandy. She married a soldier, moved away, and just lost touch with her. But that was her favourite band, and she really got me into them. Inspiral Carpets, we've got another song of theirs to come to kick off the next part, and we will feature them all month long. But enough of the music chat. I could talk a lot more. And I did say music there, because Inspiral Carpets' logo was a cow. It's on all their t-shirts and stuff. But we're going to get back to the football chat now, and we're going to start our previews of all the teams in the CPL over the next few parts, with some interviews chucked in as well, with a couple of head coaches. And we're going to start off here in BC, looking at Vancouver FC. Now, we're not going to go into everyone that's been added to every team, everyone that's left every team, just a select few, the key additions, the key departures, look at last year's performance, expectations for the year as well. But obviously, we will give the most time to Vancouver FC and Pacific FC. And a key year for Vancouver FC, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Year 4, am I right in saying?
Yep.
And it was a tough first 3 years. I mean, let's be honest. Last year in particular was particularly tough. Finished last, 21 points, 4 wins, 9 draws, 15 defeats, 35 goals for, 57 goals against. Their top scorers, Pate Ndai and Hugo Mbong, both with 6 goals apiece. Finished runners-up in the Canadian Championship. A great cup run from the Eagles, losing that final to Vancouver Whitecaps at BC Place. As we know, their 2 top scorers, Ndai and Mbong, moving on from the team, and a lot of departures from the team. 14 players moving on altogether, 13 coming in, and leading the way in his first full season in charge of the team, the man that took over midway in 2025, Martin Nash. And it's been a not bad pre-season for them. You've been out at a few games. You took in a couple at the weekend as well, where they dispatched BCPL sides Altitude and Burnaby FC. What's your hopes and expectations for 2026?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see them, with a full preseason under Martin Nash and, with Nick Nasovich at his side. Just really interesting to see kind of their approach. I think we got a good taste for it in terms of the games against Cruz Azul, which were obviously a different, cup of tea, different kettle of fish, however you want to look at that. No, I think they're going to be, I think that the overall level on the side is improved. And this is something you and I have said, I think, every year you and I have hung out and talked about a preseason of a team for the most part, a local team. We've talked about how they've gotten better. The problem with that, of course, is every team in the league is getting better and pushing the envelope and going forward. So, but no, I think they really have. They have improved quite a bit in most positions on the park. I think when you're talking about key departures or big losses or players they wish they didn't have to be parting ways with, Hugo Mbong is probably the most significant. His 7 goals or whatever it was at the end of last season when he was here from whatever it was August onward were just so huge, and he was kind of finding his form. He was a player that they tried to get, they worked really hard to get, both with his people and with TFC as well. Whether that would have been, I think the ideal scenario actually for everyone could have been him re-signing with TFC and then being loaned back, and then him hopefully picking up where he left off and having a great year in the CPL that then propels him to be a part of TFC's first team, or TFC can cash in and sell him on and make some money. But that wasn't to be. He didn't even make the TFC squad, and now he's down in Charlotte with their MLS Next Pro side.
Yeah, in North Carolina with Crown Legacy FC, and it's a chance for him to get eyes on him from Charlotte, and he's had a good start. He's played 2 games so far, 1 goal, 1 assist.
Yeah, he's quality.
Yeah.
He is a really quality young not super young, but younger up and coming a player who I think really could have been dominant in the CPL.
Another key departure for me, though, is a guy, another loanee that came in, this time from New York Red Bulls, Aidan O'Connor, who on the whole I thought had an excellent season. Towards the end, he was a little bit shakier, but the 24-year-old centre-back went back to Red Bulls. He's now joined Loudoun United in the USL, and I guess we'll just have to see how he fits in there with the team. But I think it's a tough one to replace somebody that was as good as him. But it's an area of the field I think that the team have strengthened well. Like, if we look defensively, they've brought in, and they're all different positions. They're not all centre-backs, but like Maury Donner's come in, Tom Field's come in, Cian Proctor, who I know well from TSS and from U Sports, has come in. Nicholas Nadeau, another defender from U Sports in the draft, has come in. And Isaac Sewa-Campbell has also come in. So I feel defensively like the team's lost Aidan O'Connor, they've lost Kunle Dada Luke as well. David Norman Jr. hung his boots up. Alan Enu, who I was not big on anyway, and I don't think it's that big a loss, it was another departure. But I think those additions, you look, they've kept Matteo Capagna. Tyler Crawford's going to be battling out for fullback minutes with like Cian Proctor, Paris G as well. I think it's a very solid defence that Vancouver's got this year, and we know how much Martin Nash loves to build a team with a solid defensive core. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's how they tried to play against Cruz Azul, and that's again I think how you'll see them play. I agree with you in terms of Aidan O'Connor being a big loss, but I also feel like as things progressed, one of the things that we saw from him was his inability, or the unfortunate part of his game, I think, was he was able to get turned kind of easily. And I think teams were taking advantage of at the end. One of the additions that, to me, honestly, at first when I heard about it, I thought, oh, okay, but I think actually could be a really significant role for the Eagles this year is Tom Field. Tom Field coming in from the Cavalry, who can play center back, who can play left back. He's left-footed. He can enable them to play a back 3 if they really wanted to, or a back 5 easier, or can allow them to kind of tilt the field if they want. Especially when you bring on a Maury Donner who's so offensive-minded on the right side, you don't have to worry about Tom tucking in and things being looked after at the back. So he is and he's the only player. He's the only player that they brought in who's actually from within the league.
Yeah, five seasons in the league with Cavalry, and I think that's key. He's 29. He's a good age. He can certainly be with the club for a couple of years, and you need that leadership at the back. You've got to feel he's going to be one of the starters for this team.
Well, that's the interesting thing, though, Michael. I think the number one center back, I think he's probably only third at center back because I
Yeah,
think
but
he's
I
behind.
see him starting at left back.
Yes, well, yeah, but that's the other thing though is the club has like 4 or 5 left backs on the books right
Yeah.
now, which is kind of crazy.
Just like
But
the Whitecaps.
yeah,
It's a Vancouver thing.
yeah, but you're right. I mean, based on even what I saw this weekend and what are the final real warm-up games before the season starts, yeah, I would be shocked if that's not the back four I saw coming coming out against the Wanderers next weekend, and Tom was at left back. But yeah, I think he's the third choice as a center back. Let me put it that way. Behind Mateo and Mateo Campagna and Isaac. I don't want to attempt to butcher his last name.
Suan Campbell.
Yeah,
Whether
Isaac.
that's right or not, that's what I'm going with.
Isaac.
So, I mean, defensively, I think they look not bad. Like midfield, but when you look at the midfielders that was lost, Vasco Fry's really the only big one that has departed. They kept Nicholas Mosqueda, who it feels is going to maybe be on limited minutes this year. Obviously, you've got Emerick Fotzing, who you're very, very high on. They
Yeah.
brought back Thomas Powell, Abule Itara. Uh,
Yep.
Addition-wise, I like how they've strengthened the midfield. You've got Lewis Toomey, who's come in from New Zealand. I've watched a little bit of him with Wellington Phoenix over the years in the A-League. Marcello Polisi, who we know very well, and is another player that knows the league, but has experience in the USL as well. Damiano Pesili. I'm so glad that Damiano has got a landing spot. He's had injuries the last couple of years, and I hope he can really push for regular minutes there as well. Who do you see the midfield being this year? First choice, let's go with.
I think there's a real battle there. I'm a little disappointed so far. I know he had some I think off season or maybe early preseason issues that he's dealing with in terms of Emerick Fotzing, because I want to see as much of him as possible. Like again, you don't want to put too much on him, but he needs to be playing. And if he's not starting, he needs to be in like as many games as possible, getting 30 minutes at least. But again, based on the Cruz Azul matches and based on the games this weekend, it feels like his favorite, Martin Nash's favorites right now in that center midfield are Demiano and Marcello. Both
So
kind of
are we
experienced
looking
guys.
at like the double pivot, a 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, the way they line up is a little bit flexible. Yeah, whether it's 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 or yeah, or yes, yeah, sometimes yes, like I said, sometimes even 4-4-2. Like it was weird against Cruz Azul. It looked like a 4-4-2 where Toomey was the kind of second striker who was just pressing the whole game. But no, I think it'll be more so kind of like a 4-4, sorry, 4-2-3-1. Or
Interesting.
in possession 4-2-3-1. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I like the idea of Polisi and Pacheco
Hmm.
in that double pivot as well. But then, I mean, Fotzing can play in the more advanced position. We saw
Yes.
how good he was last year, and I guess Nicholas Mosqueda is the big one.
Yeah.
Like, is he a starter? Is he just going to be a guy that's coming off the bench this year?
I think he's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I mean, he's 34 years old, which isn't that old, but I've talked to different people within the club who have different opinions on this, Michael, if I'm honest.
Mm.
Let's put it this way, in at least like significant influential roles about this. And so some I think see him being more like, yeah, he'll play, whatever. He'll play 25 to 30 games or whatever, but it might be more like a 10 as a starter and 20 as a 30 plus, impact sub. I've others who said maybe let's see how things go. Let's see how he's doing. Let's see how his body's doing. Even last year, he had some issues that kept him
Yeah.
out of games, and so that perspective is more like if he can handle more and he's performing, maybe he gets more. And when you look at the options, he is by far the most he's the best fit for that, like the 10 role, right? Of anyone on the roster. No one is more suited to that than him. They can put other players there, but with other options, it really turns into more of a second striker kind of role as opposed to someone who's actually really creative. He is the most creative person on the squad there. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Emmerich there, but I think Emmerich is actually more naturally a 6'8" than a 10. Also, we didn't talk about this, but one of the most interesting departures from the club is actually Michel da Silva, who they loaned to Palmeiras down in Brazil, which is financially helpful to the club and has obviously financial upside should that turn into a permanent move. He's, I think, a bigger loss than maybe some would be thinking because he didn't play a huge amount when he came in, but I think he's a real player with huge upside. And so but yeah, in the middle of the park, I think Mosquita and how he goes in that role, I think will really define things in the season.
Goals are obviously the key because when matches without scoring goals, and the two top scorers for last year, Ndai and Bong, no longer back, 6 goals apiece, which isn't a lot of goals in the grand scheme of things anyway. In terms of forwards, attackers, Tierno Ba, who I guess we are classing now that he's an attacker and he's fully made that switch. Terran Campbell, Kevin Podgorny, and Henri Gobu, the UBC player that's there in a development deal to the U Sports season gets underway. They all return, but some very interesting additions up front for Vancouver. You've got Mohamed Amissi, who started the games against Cruz Azul in the Champions Cup. New French forward, Lys Mousset, who's played with Bournemouth in the Premier League and is coming after a spell with Bohemians. To mixed reviews. New Brazilian addition, Vitor Lucas, just announced this past week. And the one that really intrigues me, who I think is an excellent looking prospect, Canadian under-20 standout, also has played at youth level for Bulgaria as well, Marcel Bibishkov.
Yeah. One thing, just to comment that you said earlier. Yeah, I think Tierno Ba, his days as a fullback or as a defender for the team have come and gone with the additions that have been brought in, and I think just under Martin Nash in general. And he will be a player who will play wide or potentially even up top or sometimes even underneath, but more likely wide.
Big season for him as well. He needs to push on now. Exactly.
And see some of that. He scored again on the weekend, or he got taken down for a penalty and then scored the third goal in the 3-0 win over Burnaby FC. And his goal was actually, it wasn't like the most spectacular form of this goal, but it was a bicycle kick, so that's never a bad thing. But I mean, when you're talking about goals, Michael, the players in the roster you're looking to are, a top 3 CPL scorer, Terran Campbell. I love Terran. We've known him for forever. He had, the knee surgery and stuff, and he hasn't never returned to his former self. Last year he looked off.
Yeah.
This preseason, I've seen him play at least 3 times. The first time I saw him play in Washington State, and I say this with no malice at all because I do genuinely really love Terran and long for his best. His performance was poor, but then away to Pacific and in this game on the weekend, he looked much better. His pressing, even getting involved in the play, much better, much more active, much more nimble than I think I've seen him. He only became a stomach issue kind of going on, so he got pulled off at halftime, as you would like to say. You have Lys Mousset come in, who's like on paper like the big name, the exciting player. Hopefully gets some more bums and seats because he's played in that league on that island that people value and enjoy. Maybe no.
Some comments from Bohemian fans were, though, that he's a little bit overweight and a little bit lazy at times as well.
Yeah, I don't think the not match fit part is something that can be overcome. I don't think in this league you can be lazy. I don't think Martin Nash nor Nick Dasovic suffer laziness easily. So, but it's the kind of, I think my understanding is it's the kind of situation where like he's here and he knows that if he doesn't perform, like his time here won't be long, right? So and we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see if they can extract the best from him, and I hope they can. And yeah, you want someone who's hungry, and hopefully he's hungry, and that's part of why he's here, and this part of his career. But I agree with you. Babishkov is an exciting player. I got to see him a little bit in the away on the island on March 13th, I think it was, and then this last weekend. He could be a bit of a player. Like he scored in both the games we saw. He scored I think a penalty in this weekend. He scored a nice little kind of just an awareness type goal in the box away to Pacific. Lots of upside. He did take a bit of a knock in the game and came off against it was against your boys' Altitude there. I'm hoping that he'll be ready to go and can at least play some kind of part in the game against Halifax.
Not necessarily this weekend, because everyone's still trying to get fit up to their levels and everything, but maybe a month or so down the line. Who do you see as the starting striker?
It's honestly a hard one. I think like right now where they're at, I think they would probably like technically Terrence started kind of with the first team players this weekend. But I don't think Babishkov's far off in their mind, and I think Mousset is their ideal. So if you're talking about down the road, everyone's match fit, everyone's in good form, I think you play Lise Mousset and kind of go from there.
The thing with Mousset, though, like Bohemians in Ireland terminated his contract by mutual agreement on July 2nd last year. So he hasn't played in nearly a year. But there was also a big gap between when he was with Nimes and then joining Bohemians as well. So you have to wonder just how long it's maybe going to take him to get match fit.
No, yeah, and that's a legitimate concern. And that's how these CPL squads are built though, right, Michael? Like when you look at the players that Vancouver FC has brought in, all of them are on freeze. There's 3 or 4 guys who haven't played competitively since last July, right? That's the state of where things are at for, on one hand, the league, but more so also just where the club is. They can't afford to be, they're not in a place where they can be reinvesting for example, the money they get from a loan move for Michelle this year or funds they've received in previous years from players in transfer fees. So you have to go and find those, maybe unpolished gems, around the world and around the country and that are on freeze. When I think about this, it's not that dissimilar to when Kirk and I, when the new EA comes out and we do create a club, right? One of the first things we do is we go into the free agents, find players either we know or that are quick or that have some potential, and we sign them because they're free. And they're typically we find 2 to 4 dudes in that lot that propel our club to promotion from the 3rd division in the first year of the Bundesliga. But it's not that far off in terms of what a club like Vancouver FC has to do. And I know people listening to this, some of them will be like, "Oh, that's horrible, that's terrible, blah blah blah." That's just where things are at right now. I don't think that's where things are at for forever, but yeah.
Just to finish our VFC chat, where do you see them finishing this year? Are they a playoff team for the first time?
I'd like to think so.
I mean, top 4, I think, is pushing it when you look. I mean, we'll come to them, but it's like Forge and Ottawa, you feel are locked into top 4. It's hard not to see Cavalry in top 4. And then it's whatever the Vanny effect is in Halifax. Inter Toronto need a good year as well. I think it's tough for VFC to do that, but I do like how they've strengthened defensively. And I think there are attacking pieces there that if they can click, they can certainly do better than 8th and do better than 21 points from last year.
Yeah, they definitely should.
I think they'll be in the mix at least right down to the wire.
Yeah, I hope it's more than that, but yes, I'll be disappointed if it's not. And not just because I like them, but because I really think that they have improved enough to be in that battle.
Well, that is some of our thoughts on Vancouver FC. Let's hear some thoughts now from head coach Martin Nash, Zach and myself got a chance to chat with him this week, looking ahead to the season to come. So, Martin, thanks for joining us once again. The 2026 season is about to get underway, your first full one in charge of the team. How excited are you heading into this season and year 8 of the CPL?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. I think it's always exciting to start a season, and we've done a lot of work in the offseason to build a roster that we think can compete for a playoff spot. And, I'm excited to see the new faces and how they come in and help the group and how the group evolves and changes and see where we can get to at the end of the year.
We won't look back too much on last year. Don't like doing that too much anyway, but there's been so much change. There's been a huge roster turnover. Zach will cover a lot of the new faces in a sec as well. Just one question on last year. Like, you came in mid-season, the team got to the cup final. There was a lot of buzz about the team, which there hadn't really been for a long, long time. Some really good performances. How do you look back at your first few months in charge of the team?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. That was the first time I'd taken over partway through a year. I'd been on the other end of, being let go, but this is the first time coming in partway through a season. It was difficult. The team didn't have a lot of confidence. The culture, there was a lot of things that needed to change, and was able to change some of them. And I think the biggest thing for me is when I think we won the second game. I think it was Halifax away. It might have been the third. I think it was the second game, and I could just tell after that win, just looking around the locker room, that I'm in trouble. Like, this is there's a lot of work needs to be done. The group's not in a great place mentally. And to be fair to the guys, the cup kind of kept it going because we stayed in the cup run and winning the first game of the cup. It gave them something to play for, because I think mentally they'd all checked out of the league and the standings and the results. So it was tough to change their mind. And I tried like a bunch of ways to try to change the mentality and the drive. And it did get better. And then, decided to, at the end, to look at the young players and to really see who I wanted to keep around for the following season. So guys at that stage, I was like, guys, you're fighting for jobs for next year. And if you want to be here, fight. And to be fair, the guys did. And that's why we were able to, go on I think it was a 5-game unbeaten run to end the season. And, it was made it easier for me to make decisions and who we should keep and who we need to move on and what areas we need to improve.
It's interesting you hearing saying that, because I'm always a firm believer. It's easy to know about a player when the team's doing well and getting success, but you learn so much about your players when it is a tough spell and their mentality and are they going to fight for the group. And we spoke to Kyle Becker earlier this year, and you listen to his mentality, how he approaches every game, and you can tell he's a winner through and through. But one of the things that he said is people can sit and moan about, oh, this, you get more money in this league, or you can go and do that. But the only way you'll improve your standing is to apply yourself on the pitch. And it's the same when you're at the bottom of the league. If you're playing for contracts and you want to stay in this league, you have to have the right mentality. So did you learn a lot about some players, like, without naming names? Like, did some surprise you, good or bad?
Yeah, definitely. The mentality is massive. And I think that's why Kyle's arguably been the best player in the league for the first 8 years, because of his mentality and the way he drives his team forward. And when he's not in their team, they're not the same. And still at his age, he's still driving that team forward. And, I was looking for characters like that here and who has that mentality to drive forward. And we have a few, but I was surprised by a few guys that were really fighting for their career in a lot of ways, but didn't have that mentality to keep driving and pushing forward. And, and as such, I made tough decisions to, which guys to keep and which guys we needed to let go so that we could change the culture, change the outlook of the squad. And I think some of the guys that had that they'd accepted losing. It happened for a number of years here. So, and I can't accept that. So, there was a lot of difficult decisions and we're trying to turn a whole club around. Right. And you saw with the Champions League what the ability this club has to get crowds in. But I think a lot of it's going to be driven by results. So, That's our job to turn this around, get better results, which will help the front office and help get fans and try to grow the club.
We'll talk about some of the on-field changes in a sec, but with your backroom staff, you've brought in Nick Dazovic. You've known him for years. We've known him for years. In some ways, the two of you, you're a little old school in that you won't allow passengers, you won't allow folk not pulling their weight. And I think it needs that because sometimes the younger generation now maybe get away with a little bit too much. Why did you decide to bring in someone like Dazzle to be your number two?
Yeah, I wanted someone that, I trusted, one. I've known Nick for a long time, played with him. He's got a great coaching resume, and I even with Nick, I called around and talked to people that had coached with him because it's different when, you have a relationship as a teammate and stuff to find out, and got a lot of positive feedback. And I knew he was going to be a big help on field coaching and, in the office. So I think he's been a great addition so far. And, I think bringing someone with his pedigree, loves to have a laugh, but is no nonsense at the same time. So I think it's a great combination. I'm really enjoying the first, couple months here and, really looking forward to see what he brings during the season.
You talk about the roster building that you've gone through. How significant has Dasso been in terms of that, his connections? You have some players that have obviously played for him recently and that kind of stuff. How big has that been?
And well, unfortunately, really, I think one or two players maybe. The roster was kind of done by the time I brought him in. Kean was someone that he knew, and we looked at, and Damiano. I think other than that, kind of the roster was already built to the extent when he came in, but they've been two good additions too. So it has been good having that, and he knows the Vancouver scene really well, being part of the Whitecaps programs, and some of the players that I might not really know. He has a really good handle on the Vancouver scene. So which is something the club needs to get better at. To be honest, it's always we're short staffed and it's tough to get around and see a lot of games. But with Nick, we've added connections right to the community so that we can really be aware of what there is in League One coming through. Because Kean's a great talent, has a lot of ability, and someone I think that could go to the next level. All going well if his mentality is right and his work rate's right. So. Damiano as well. So there are good local players that have quality that we can help. That can help us in the short term, and hopefully we can help get to a higher level.
Continue just to talk about the kind of roster construction. It's both, I assume, an extremely engaging and like all in kind of process, and has its highs and its lows. Maybe we will focus on more of the highs than the lows. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about Tom Field. He's the one player you've brought in who you brought in from another CPL club. I wonder if you could talk about what the qualities he brings and why you were excited to bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of bringing Tom to the CPL in the first place with Cavalry. So I had that relationship there with him. I knew what he could bring, his mentality, the type of professional he is, and also the player he is. He can fill a few spots in the back line, and I think he had a really good season with Calgary last year. And for whatever reason, we had the ability to pick him up. And when he called, I was real excited about the prospect of having him in to strengthen our back line. I think it was an area that we needed to get better than we were last year. So it was a no-brainer for me to try and get him in, and I thought he did well in the two CONCACAF games. Obviously it was tough playing against the top team in CONCACAF and playing, the way we played to stay in games or stay in the game. But I thought we had some good moments, and the first half of both games I thought were really good. It's just we tailed off late and they just kept coming. So. But he was, I think he's a big pickup for us and someone that will help on the professionalism side, the culture side, as well as on the field.
You brought a couple other experienced players in, people like Maury Donner, obviously up top, Lise Mousset is an experienced player. Even Damiano has had some experience abroad. Isaac, how important was you to get that balance right between like some experienced players and like you said, like someone young like Kean, who's kind of at the earlier stages of his career?
Yeah, and I think that was part of it when I really evaluated the squad from last year. I thought the balance was slightly off, maybe a little bit too young. I like young players, like working with young players and trying to help players move on. I've I've worked 3 or 4 guys that are consistent in the MLS, some guys that are now from the CPL are playing in the national team programs. I've worked with a lot of them as well. So, um, you know, I wanted that right blend where you have enough experience to help the younger players out as well. If you have too many young players, they got to learn how to be pros. And if you have too many young ones, it can be tough at times. So I think we try to get the balance better this year. But it was always going to be a tough turnover when we had so many U21s like aging out last year. So we had to find a few more to come in. I think Keane's been a good pickup, obviously in that regard. Yeah, I think that balance is better, and I think that was a big part of bringing some of the guys you brought in, some of the experienced pros like Maury and Isaac. Bringing guys like that in who've played at a high level, and I think can bring that professionalism and can help those young players along.
In addition to Tom Field, how significant is the signing of Isaac, CO1 Campo, to what you want to do at the back this year, to give you the flexibility to maybe even play 3 at the back or 5 at the back, but also give you kind of the depth that has been lacking in previous years?
Yeah, I think it's big. He's got the ability to, like you say, we can play 3 at the back and play 4 at the back with him. He can even play as a holding midfielder. He's quite versatile. He's very good technically, and he's a leader. He talks and communicates well, and I think that's what him and Tom brought or bring is that they communicate really well, and you hear them on the pitch, and they help players out. They're quite positive with it too, which is good. And but at the same time, they'll call players out when needed. So you need that balance. I think they both bring that. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in the league and in action. But yeah, I mean, it does give us a little bit of flexibility at the back.
In the middle, in midfield, across midfield, you have a whole slew of new additions, whether it's the Kiwi Luis Tommy, Marcello Polisi, of course, who many will know in the area, Mohamed Amisi, who can play wide, Damiano, and the young kid Victor Lucas, who's just come in, who's I believe a winger for you as well. What does that group add?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was we 2 players that I wasn't planning on losing, to be honest, in Dave Norman and Vasco Fry, but both decided for their lives to go in different directions, and we had to kind of tool up. I've known Marcello for years, coached him in the Whitecaps programs just after I retired. So I think he's another one to bring in that's vocal, that is a leader that I think would help our midfield. I thought we had to get better in the wing position, so that's why we brought Misi in and we brought Victor Lucas, and we have Buba coming next week. So we've tooled up in that area as well. And then bringing an ex Premier League striker in that he's a little bit away because he just got here, so we got to get him match fit before we can kind of turn him loose. But bringing some good experience in and some guys that can really, start and affect the game or come in and change a game. So I think that's what we didn't have last year. I didn't feel that we had enough guys that could come in and change a game. I thought that the squad was really, maybe, 9 to 11 deep in some ways. And now I think we've got a lot more depth, and there's going to be a lot of tough decisions for me in naming squads, let alone 11. So, but that's what you want it. I wanted to build a squad that there's competition in every position, so players can't relax. They got to work, they got to fight, they got to earn their spot in their minutes, right? So, I'm looking forward to seeing guys battle it out for minutes in the team, and I think that's a healthy side of it. Whereas last year, there was a few guys that just knew I'm playing, and I don't like that attitude can drop, especially when a season's not going well, and you don't know what you're going to get on a Saturday when someone can just chill all week and you're like, I have no other option but to play him. So now I'm not stuck in that predicament, and guys are going to have to fight and work for minutes and and going to compete. So that was a big part of how we went about building the squad.
It definitely feels a very competitive squad, and you do have a lot of options. I just want to touch on Lise Mousset for a sec. There's not many players come to the CPL that have had decent English Premier League experience, and like we're talking about a guy that didn't just have a cup of coffee. It's like 100 appearances in one of the top leagues in the world. But his career has seemed to take a little bit of a dip. Like I watch a lot of Bohemians stuff over in Ireland, and when he left there, like I don't even really remember him playing for Bohemians, but he hasn't played a game since July.
Yeah.
Where are his levels? Like, is it going to take quite a while, do you feel, to get him at the kind of levels that he needs to be at?
It is. It's going to take some time. I think that was the report from Bohemians that they pushed him into playing before he was really fit. So he had a lot of injuries and never really got going. So we're going to take a different approach. We're going to try and get him fit before we start, pushing him into minutes. And with a player being out that long, it's going to take some time. We got to be a little bit patient with him, but we feel we got a great talent if we can get him into the, fitness levels that we know he's been at in the past. We have a fantastic player. We see it in training all the time, and he's not sharp right now, and he still does things that I've not seen a player in the CPL do.
He'll bring that, yeah, like you said, that experience once he's fit and ready to go. One other attacking option that you brought in is Babishkov. Having watched him play a little bit in some of the preseason action, I think he's a player that fans will be excited to see.
I'm excited to see him, I've got to say.
How excited are you about what he could bring, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's an exciting young striker. I mean, yeah, you don't get too many 6'3" strikers that are pretty good mobility and strong at a young age, and fill the U21 spots. And I think he's a player with upside. He's obviously still got a lot to learn and a ways to go, but he's had some minutes in Bulgarian Premier League and at some good levels, and he's done well with the U20 national team. So I think he's one of those players that he's going to get opportunities first off the bench and see how he does, and slowly make his impact greater and greater as the season goes. But yeah, he's an exciting young prospect, and hopefully we can teach him those little things he needs to be successful in the CPL, and hopefully, get a player like that in and have some success and get him to a higher level.
Shifting the focus to some of the returning players and what you're hoping to see out of them. Last year was kind of like a breakout year for Tierno Ba, especially kind of solidifying him more as an attacking player in the league. I know previously he played a bunch at the back or as a fullback. He played a crucial role and was one of the players that made the Voyageurs Cup final such a dynamic game. What are you hoping to see from him this year? And is this really the year that he needs to put his best foot forward in terms of advancing his career to the next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him higher up the field. I think he has good defensive abilities, and he did well at the back. But I thought, I thought he was a bit wasted there in the CPL. I think he has the ability to run at guys. He's strong. He's tough to knock off the ball. He wins fouls. He has the ability to score goals. And I just feel he's more of a dynamic player, and I don't think we need him at the back. And I don't think necessarily being deep and passing is his strength. I think he's more strength running at guys, using his physical attributes. And I think he showed that in the second half of the year. He had a great game against the Whitecaps. And, he's obviously got areas to improve, but I think, hopefully he has that full breakout season this year, and we can push him on to greater heights, and who knows where he can go from there.
Another young player that really made the breakthrough last year was Mateo Campagna, and so kind of solidified himself as a starter in this league and in this team. Again, watching him in preseason, you can see his game has grown. You talked about some of the vocal players you brought in. I feel like he's also grown in that in his game in terms of vocally leading from the back and communicating well from the back. What does a good 2026 look like for Mateo?
Yeah, I think, I think he needed a bit more help around him, to be honest. And he was already had that kind of vocal side enough. He needs to get a little bit better at it and be more of a leader because he has that in him. And I think he needs to be part of a back four that keeps a lot of clean sheets and defends first, because he is a really good ball playing center back. But I think the first and foremost as defender, you want as many clean sheets as possible. And we've talked about it a lot this preseason that we want to be really solid defensively and build from there. So it's not going to be easy, but I think he has a lot of upside. He's got a lot of quality. He needs to maybe be a little bit more defense first at times, but he's got all the attributes to play at any level he wants. And he's young and getting a lot of experience right now, and hopefully he really has a full breakout year in a team that qualifies for playoffs.
One of the things that's important for, all football clubs in the world is developing young players and helping them grow as players, but then also, push on. And that's been at the ethos of kind of, I think, Vancouver FC from the beginning, especially when you talk to, people like Rob Friend and others at the club about it. The club has had in the context of the league itself, have a really good track record of that, with the latest one last year obviously being Michel de Silva kind of getting the loan move down in Brazil. A player that I would be remiss does not ask you about, that I'd like to ask you about a lot, is Emerick Fotzing. What does 2026 look like for Emerick Fotzing in terms of taking that kind of the next step for him? Where is he at right now in terms of, I know he had some injury stuff at the end of the last year, and I think he had to miss some of the beginning of this year. But how's he looking?
Yeah, he's back to full fitness now. Unfortunately, missed the CONCACAF run and came in injured from actually a U20 camp, and never really gained his fitness. So he's had to struggle, kind of had to get back to himself, and now he is starting to look like himself again now, and he's had a decent end to the preseason here. I think a successful season sees him consistently getting minutes and being consistent, staying healthy. And when I came last year, I think he was out 6 weeks with a concussion. So if he can stay healthy and keep improving, he's got a lot of upside. He's a great young talent. He's got a great attitude, works really hard. And I think if one thing you could say about him, maybe he's a bit too nice. If he could get that little bit of a, I won't say a nasty streak, but be a bit that way. And I think it would help him a lot. He's one of those players you would fear to play against if he, kind of got that intensity just a little bit higher.
The way you played.
Yeah. Some of these guys, they're a bit nicey as they play. And, I think, you can do it in the right way. You get your foot stuck in, he's physically strong. He's a great young talent, a great kid. And I think he's got a lot of upside, and he's got a lot of improving to do as well, as they all did.
So for him, would you say it's been helpful for him to play some of these games for the Canadian youth team against CONCACAF teams? Is that helping toughen him up a bit, or giving him that, maybe not toughen, but giving him that mentality a little bit more? Because he's played against it from those people in that part of our region?
I don't know. He got injured in the last camp, so he didn't play much there. And then he missed the last camp, got injured in the camp before in December. And he never recovered from it. And, or they thought he was recovered and he wasn't. And we had an MRI done, and it kind of slowed, the process was slowed. And we wanted to make sure we got him back to where he needed to be and not rushed it. But yeah, I think, we'll push him to go anytime they call. And I think those games are great for him and great for any young player. But I think for them to keep improving, it's good for them to play against men and at the top level, at the highest level they can, and keep improving, right?
Just get used to Zach asking you about Fotzing every week, because he
knows
loves the guy.
He knows.
It's hard not to. He's a fantastic young man.
Yeah. Last couple of things. The relationship with, like you talked about, like Kian. I've watched Kian come through with TSS, and he's had a fantastic couple of years there. Watched him in the college game as well. Langley United is obviously your opponents in the Canadian Championship, but also the club that you had an affiliation with last year in League One. Is that going to continue for this year, or are you looking to use all of, well, I should call them the BCPL as they are now? Are you wanting to kind of utilize all the clubs as opposed to just focus on one, maybe?
Yeah, right now we're more focused with Langley, that partnership there, because they're right on our doorstep. They train on our pitch, so we have that good connection. Azad's running that team, so our players will go and play. Most of them will go and play in that team, and they're here. So if guys need to, they go train with them on a day before they go play, and when we're away, they can go train with them. So. It's a relationship that we have, and we will utilize as much as we can, really. So I think that's our biggest relationship within that league. It's a great relationship now, and I think it's a key to us building the club going forward.
Season gets underway on Saturday. It's a big game locally, because obviously Vanni Sartini's coming back to Vancouver. Kickoff times not very conducive to folk getting to that and the Whitecaps game. But it's an intriguing game. And we were talking about how we see the league going this year, and you never know, but it does feel there's maybe a top three of Forge, Ottawa, Cavalry, and then we know there's 4 playoff spots now. So you're maybe looking at it's yourselves, Halifax, into Toronto, maybe in the group of three that's battling for that. And who knows about Pacific and Supra. How do you see this season going? And games like Halifax in particular do seem like they could ultimately be key to whether you're a playoff team or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always a little bit of unknown when you start a season, what teams do well. And I think with the size of squads too, injuries, then the healthier you can stay as a squad, the better it is as well. But I think Halifax will be very well coached with Vandy coming in. They have a lot of the same. They have a lot of players coming back that are very talented. They had a good squad last year, the playoff team. So it's going to be a tough game. And they are one of those teams that we're really fighting for. They're, like you say, them into Toronto. I think Ottawa this year are teams that you kind of be fighting out for the final two playoff spots. Cavalry and Forge kind of still have that their team set, and they've just seemed to keep tooling up every year. But I think there's a lot of teams fighting for those four spots this year, and I think it's going to be interesting this year. I think you might see some surprises in the teams in the top four.
That'd be good. One more question, then I'll let you go. It's going to be an interesting year. There's a lot of changes as well in the league this year. Goalkeepers, you've got the countdown rule for them. That's something Callum's going to have to get used to. Attacking wise, it's going to be interesting to see how this new offside rule plays out, how the referee and linesmen deal with these changes and stuff as well. Do you feel you might have to approach things a little bit different tactically, both on the defensive side and the attacking side, to kind of take full advantage of this new rule?
Yeah, I think in some ways the teams that get to grips with it first could mean points early in the season, right? We're talking to our players about trying to play off shoulders up front because you can stand behind them, the player now, so it's tougher to defend. And do you drop? Does the defender drop? Does the defender stay? So defensively, you can't really step out. You can't look to play offside because it's a lot harder now, I think, until you really get to grips with the rule and with the video support as well. It's a lot of interesting things going on. So, I think it's great for the game, great for the league, to try these things and be forward thinking. And we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting. I think it's less straightforward than we think, but we won't know until like the season kicks off on Saturday and how it goes. And with the video support system and the challenges, and even with the 5-second throw and 5-second goal kicks, which are not something I'm a massive fan of, because I think there's no gamesmanship then. I think wasting time, is one thing, but it's throw-ins are less of a set play, because how do you take a long throw now if you're a long throw team? Because if you have 5 seconds to get it in, you can't send you got center backs going up and people going. The other team's been going to the ref, hey, 5 seconds. You know what I mean? So it'd be interesting how these rules work and how much common sense as well the referees give it, to be fair. It'd be interesting. I think there's a lot of, how is it going to play out? There's a lot of unknowns there a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. And I think it's going to take some teams as well as the referees a little bit of time to get to grips with it all. So it's going to be interesting, but I think, as you say, I think it's good for the league, good for the game, and the game's always moving forward tactically. And there's just a wrinkle that's thrown at us coaches to try and figure out how we deal with it, both sides of the ball.
Well, thank you for your time today, Martin. Good luck for the season ahead, and I'm sure we'll chat to you a lot more as the season goes on.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Marty.
So that is it for our thoughts on Vancouver FC. That's going to be our longest team, obviously, that we look at. For the rest of this part, let's turn our attention to the other team in BC. BC's best CPL team, I will always say. The boys in purple, Stewie the Starfish's purple and blue army, Pacific FC. The Islanders, they didn't have a good 2025 either. It wasn't a good year for the CPL in BC, it has to be said, and they will most certainly be looking to bounce back this year as well. 7th place last year, 2 points ahead of VFC, 5 wins, 8 draws, 15 defeats, 30 goals for, 59 against. Goals were a real struggle to come for. They just could not find the goal scoring touch when it mattered. It wasn't a good season in general for them, which makes it very surprising to me, Zach, the lack of turnover that there has been in this squad.
Yeah, that's a fair perspective.
16 players have been brought back, only 5 new additions, and some key departures as well. 8 players moving on. Ali and Dom at the back, huge loss for them as well. Whitecaps, former Whitecaps Academy player George Mukambilwa has moved on. Another defender, Dario Zanata up front, moved on, as well as Emmanuel Montellano. Dario did not have a good 2025 season. And in the midfield, big piece lost in Sean Young and Daniel De Pauli, another midfielder, moving on. The core are coming back. The only forward that they've added is Bull Juach. I've probably absolutely butchered his name. Don't know much about him at all. He's a South Sudanese player, 25 years old, has spent time down in Australia with Canberra United's Academy, Wollongong Wolves, who, just somewhat bizarrely, I actually watched their game this weekend whilst flicking through the various channels. Comes to the club, though, from another Australian semi-pro side, who I've also seen a little bit off in the Australian Cup over the years, Heidelberg United. Now, they play at a decent level down in Australia in Melbourne, and 22 goals in 28 appearances for Heidelberg last year. I mean, if you're scoring 22 goals in any league, it's a good level. They're kind of in the second stroke third tier in Australia. I don't know how he'll adapt. Did he play in the game that you saw Pacific play in Vancouver?
I don't know who all the Pacific guys were because they weren't wearing numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Their additions with the season they have, I'm stunned by this.
Yeah, I think it looks bleaker for them than Vancouver FC this year.
Absolutely. Like right now, I've got them and Supra battling it out for bottom spot, but that's solely because I don't know much about the Supra guys.
That's understandable.
I mean, you look at this Pacific team, and yeah, they were riddled with injuries, especially on the defensive side last year. And they started okay defensively, then they were just shipping goals left, right, and centre. It was the goals scored that were their problem. They do have Alejandro Diaz. And when you've got Diaz, you're hoping it's the good Diaz, the leading scorer Diaz in the league. But they're relying very heavily on him this year.
Yes. Yeah. And they did in the game. The game I saw him play in. He was, he actually played way longer than I thought he was going to play that day. But very much an important part of what they hope to do this year. Also in that game was Bustos, and last year was a weird year for Bustos, a really off year. Off the field, he became a dad. Got to talk to him very, very, very briefly, and he kind of hoped that maybe that is something that spurs him on in his on field performance, as opposed to maybe becomes a natural, understandable life distraction.
Yeah, I mean, he was let's be honest, he was a shadow of himself last year.
Did he score like his first goal in like the second last game of the year?
Yeah, he lost the starting spot. He just wasn't scoring. He wasn't getting the assists. He wasn't the Marco Bustos that we know.
No, not at all.
And the team struggled. I mean, they averaged just over a goal a game. And they lost Ronan Krat in the first of the second game to an injury, and there was high hopes for how he was going to do. Jan Tuali did kind of step up, got 4 goals. Diaz got 6 goals, but they're relying on Krat and Diaz to get the goals. Bull Juach, how he's going to kind of fit into things as well. They hope that they're going to keep strong at the back. Hayden Chung's back for another season. I just think this is going to be a season of struggle for them. I mean, I'm taking it Sean Melvin is the starting goalkeeper. Elias Himaris has come in. He was on loan to Valor from York, played exceptionally well against TSS in the Canadian Championship last year. So, I mean, I guess he'll be challenging Melvin for minutes and maybe splitting some of the time, but you have to feel it's Melvin that's going to get the starting goal. I mean, maybe not. Back four of Chung, Quintana, Koninks, and Greco Taylor, I guess. Midfield, not sure about. And I don't think Bustos is a starter in this team again. I think we're probably looking at Krat, Diaz, and Duach. I mean, I don't think you bring a 22-goal scorer in and not starting.
That's fair. Yeah, whether Marco starts or not, he's going to be relied upon to, create or score a bunch of goals.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough goal for Pacific. I hope I'm wrong. I think the league needs all the teams to be competitive, and I'm just a bit worried about Pacific this year. But yeah, hopefully they go out and prove me wrong. What's your prediction for them? For me, it's battling it out for 7th or 8th.
I concur.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, I think, for James Merriman as well going forward. The other thing we've got to talk about with Pacific as well is the off-the-field stuff. They're up for sale. We haven't heard anything about that for a while for interest. They're playing games this year at Royal Athletic Park, which I think is a good move for them. Get into the downtown core. Well, not quite downtown, but it's downtown, not right in the hub. You're going to get more eyeballs in it. They've played there before. It was a good turnout. It looked good. And you hope that this is the start of maybe a transition to that. But there's the off-the-field financial stuff that's been kicking about as well. And when a team's up for sale, I mean, we've seen what's happened with Edmonton. We've seen what's happened with Valor. It's hard not to worry.
Yes. It's a difficult one because I think I've heard of, there are people interested in buying the club. It's just matching valuations and the right circumstances, right? Like, yeah, there's just also this great desire to have the club move to RAP, which I think would be a part of this deal in one way, shape, or form. They're only on the 1 year deal or 1 year rolling deal or whatever out at Starlight. Again, like I've said on the show in the past, I think some of the ways in which some of the stuff has been talked about in the media has misrepresented the facts and the truth. And when I ask people about it, it's like, they have the receipts to show their standing and all this. And I think in due time that'll all kind of play out. But when people are talking about some of this money that's owed to the city, I would take that with a massive grain of salt. In terms of this is also municipality that's also fighting to not lose a tenant, right? Fighting to not lose someone.
And it's a shame because I love Starlight. I think it's a cracking little stadium.
It is, but you can also understand how the location kind of hurts them, right? Like
absolutely. Like if you don't have a car, trying to get to there, especially if you're coming over from Vancouver, say for the derby from the ferry, nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have challenges. They do have off the field challenges. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say everything's rosy, but they also have some great people who do their off field stuff there. A guy named we know Trish who does their comms, of course.
Yeah,
Simon
awesome.
Avila is a big part of the team there that runs the match day operations. I don't know what exactly his title is these days, but they have a great kind of group of people over there, and for their sake, for the community's sake over there, for the sake of football in British Columbia and obviously the league, I hope that things can kind of get worked out and this stuff can get sorted out. Number one, behind the scenes, and then number two, publicly, and that they can have a bright future, just like hopefully there's a bright future for the league as a whole.
Yeah. Well, that's our thoughts on the two BC teams. We will continue our CPL 2026 season preview after we hear the second song this episode from our new Artist of the Month.
Hi, I'm Bobby Smyrniotis, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Husband don't know what he's done. Kids don't know what's wrong with mum. She can't say, they can't see. Putting it down to another bad day. Daddy don't know what he's done. Kids don't know what's wrong with mum. So this is how it feels to be lonely. This is how it feels to be small. This is how it feels when your word means nothing at all. There's a funeral in the town. Some guy from the top estate. Seems they found him under a train, and yet he had it all on a plate. So this is how it feels to be lonely. This is how it feels to be small. This is how it feels when your word means nothing at all.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the second song from our new Artist of the Month here at AFTN for April, Oldham band, the Inspiral Carpets, and that was their song, This Is How It Feels. Released on March 5th, 1990, it's the band's fifth single and the second one to be taken from their 1990 debut album Life. This was the band's big commercial breakthrough, giving them their first big chart hit in the UK. It was their first song that entered the top 40, their first song that made it into the top 20 in the UK charts, reaching number 14 in the main charts. It ended up being their second highest charting single of their career as well. Reached number 22 in the US modern rock charts. It's one of their most famous songs, and it's also a song that is sung at various football grounds. It's changed a little bit. I'm sure you've heard that over the terracing over the years. We'll be back with more from the Inspiral Carpets in the next episode of the show, but we're going to get back to the football chat now, back continuing our 2026 CPL preview. And we're going to turn our attention outside of BC now, and we're going to move on to last year's regular season champions, Forge FC. It was another fantastic campaign for the side from Hamilton. 16 wins from the 28 matches, 10 draws, just the 2 defeats. They were in a battle all season to top the regular season with Ottawa. More on them in the next part. They finished on 58 points, 51 goals scored, just the 22 goals given up. And Forge set a new Canadian Premier League record with a 20-match unbeaten run in league play that went from April 5th to August 30th. Overall, if you include the Canadian Championship games as well, they went on a 24-match unbeaten streak. The run broken on August 30th by their fierce rivals Cavalry FC in a 4-1 loss. You know, the Cavs will really have enjoyed that one. But it was another great season for Forge. But for the first time ever in their history, the CPL Championship game did not feature Forge FC in it. And that is something that they are going to want to remedy this year. You can be sure about that. It's been an interesting off-season for the club. 15 players return, 10 players moved on, and there's been 6 new additions as well. We'll get into some of the come-ins and go-ins shortly, but before we do that, let's hear from Forge FC head coach Bobby Smyrniotis, just to chat about the season that was, what is to come, and just looking forward to the 2026 CPL season in general. So, Bobby, thank you so much for doing this today. I'm sure you're really busy this week because the season is finally about to get underway. How are you feeling about the eighth season for Forge, the eighth season of the league?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on the show here, guys. And yeah, eighth season. It's been a while since it was year number one, and we were starting a new league and new teams and trying to figure out what this is all was all going to look like. And here we are in year eight, trying to get better, trying to get better as a club, all around as a team, and keep on reaching new goals. And we've set the bar pretty high over here at Forge. So you keep on going, and with that, you've got turnover in the team. You've got different goals you're going to set for the group. Those could be tactical things in the way we need to evolve as coaches, and then challenging new players to step it up.
7 seasons so far. Every year you've won a trophy. The elusive double is still there, which I'm sure at some point it's going to get done by yourselves. But like going into every new season, what still motivates you? Like 8 years in, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
To be honest, I think it's a little bit of that taste of the end. It's we've learned to see what the success is and how great that is, and I think that's what keeps you motivated. It's that to do that year after year in a salary cap league is tough. So it means it's tough work. You need to grind in a good way. You need to find different ways to motivate your players. I think that's a positive challenge for our coach and our whole coaching staff. You want to come up with new tactical ideas. We have to evolve as coaches if we want our teams to evolve. And I think those are the little different challenges from within you look for that give you the edge going into a season. And then it helps, and I said this before. We've built a great tradition here in a very short period of time, and there's an aura about that within the club. So when new players come in here, they know what the expectation is. They also come here with the hope that they can be part of that as well, and I think that allows things to enhance and move a little bit quicker. As I've seen in this preseason with this group, that has quite a few changes. We've lost some very important players that have been here for many years. And, for many points in preseason without many official games. And obviously we played in Champions Cup. The team has looked very good.
We won't delve too much into last year because what's done is done. But is there still part of you that feels this unfinished business from how last year ended and it just lights an extra fire under you?
I think when you look at it right in that moment, there's disappointment, and then a few weeks later you realize how fulfilling of a season it was. So in the moment you feel that because you obviously want more, you want to do everything, you want to win more trophies. But then a couple of weeks later you look back and what the season was for the team, and you have to be fulfilled as a coach and as a club, and that was the message I gave to the players. Back then, because it was a special season. It was some of our best football on both sides of the ball, and integrating again new players. Where I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of last season, I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. Sometimes you have this good feeling about the team going in last year, and I said that many times. Even in last season, I wasn't quite sure at the beginning. What the new players would look like, how everyone would gel, and then you get a season like you did. So obviously there's disappointment in the moment, but when you look back and then you reflect, it's a lot of fulfillment on what we did.
Obviously, there's the disappointment from not being in the championship game, but then you look at everything else that you did, and 20-game unbeaten run in the league, 24 games overall. I mean, that's just incredible. At any league, any top league in any country, to go that unbeaten, I mean, that must be an immense sense of pride for you.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about. That's part of that fulfillment. And there's nothing better than walking into the stadium on a Monday and not having lost on the weekend. And that was a great feeling walking in here. It's not so much for myself and the staff, for the players. because these guys put in a lot of work, and you see how, that carries momentum, that carries a different sense of pride in the group, and that's something, they carried with them and kept on doing, and something they built, and that's what you want. You want that internal motivation from the group, not only what we give as a coaching staff, but also internally as a group, what they're able to put together. Because it was something that from the staff we never talked about once. We never did the math on games. I never talk about things like this. We just go, and it's just part of, I guess, my demeanor, and it comes off in our club. We're not a club of highs, and we're not a club of lows. You keep it steady, and in the end, we'll see what the result is.
Yeah, I'm like with that as well. If like you're a team that everyone in the league wants to beat just because you win, but on that unbeaten run, I'm pretty sure all the other teams were talking about it as they went to face you last year.
Yeah, and that's something that, it's you take pride in. That's something that we've created as a club. And let's face it, in each league there's a club like that, and that needs to be part of the culture of the club that supersedes coaches, players, and everyone. And, that was always my hope, going back 8 years ago, is that we're able to create an identity for this club. Going back to my roots in development and a lot of the clubs I worked with and learned from, it was, number one for me was creating a club culture. Because before I started with Forge, I never had to win a game in my life. I just had to make sure that the players were developed through a system in the academy side that I was. And I had to find a way of putting both together. This idea of playing a good brand of football, but marrying that with the ambition of this club and our ownership and our shiny stadium and everything good that comes along. That, we need to be a team that wins, and that's what I'm, I guess, most grateful for over these years, and that's also what keeps me driven to keep on going each and every year.
Bobby, with that winning comes the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which you kind of mentioned there. A good showing against Tigres. You continually seem to get drawn against Mexican powerhouses. How do you kind of build off the performances that you guys had in those games?
Yeah, I think, one thing we've learned with Champions Cup, and yeah, we've had tough draws, but when you get a team that's maybe had a little bit of turnover, like the last couple of years, it really puts you to the test right from the beginning. And it's great. And of course, we want better results. And this year, you guys probably saw it for the first time. We went away from what traditionally Forge looks like in games. And this is where, you have to think about it as a coach. We've done this 3 times. We've played some excellent games. We've played our way. And you know what? The result hasn't been there. So let's try it a little bit differently. We had a few injuries to the squad, and we had to think a bit differently. But what you get is you gain a lot in the character of your team. You gain a lot in the integration of new players into understanding that, this club thinks big. This club wants big things. And, if I look at those 2 games, I think our guys did a fantastic job, an absolute excellent job against, an absolute very good team. We saw that a couple of weeks ago in the way they turned their result against Cincinnati as well in Champions Cup. Yeah, so you work on that, and you use that as a guiding light also on what we need to do in the season, and most of it is effort. It's effort, attention to detail. You do that week in, week out, you will be very good in this league. You drop those standards, and this is a salary cap league, a roster cap league. Everyone has the ability to have the same talent as everyone else and all of that kind of fun stuff. So you just can't drop your attention to detail.
So you talked about maybe learning how to play a different way in this series against Tigres. Did you learn anything else from this new group of players? And what's been the focus for you since then? Because you do have this awkwardness of having the privilege and the honor of being in this tournament and these games, but then obviously going out when you did, it means there's a significant gap. How have you guys managed that and balanced that?
Yeah, there's 2 things. One, it's you learn very quickly on some of your new players in your lineup what they're built of and what you can expect from them, because you're playing top quality. You look at our new goalkeeper in Dimitri Berteau, and obviously he's got an excellent pedigree. But until you see somebody in the official matches, you want to see how things go. And he had an excellent showing. Antoine Baptiste, defender who can play in midfield, I thought was very good over those 2 games. And then, you get time after Champions Cup. We gave the guys a couple of weeks off, and you get back and you refocus and you prepare a team now for a season. Because from January 4th until that first leg, we prepared a team to play 2 matches, to be ready, to be fresh. You weren't going to be fully fit. That's not possible. So you have to be careful on the injury front and different things like that. But to have a team that's ready to play 2 games with a chance to play 2 more. And I had this interesting discussion a couple of weeks ago. I was over in Europe in a UEFA course amongst coaches, and it's gotten around that we play in Champions Cup. We start in January, but our league doesn't start in April, and you soon figure out that we're probably the only people in the world who have to figure this thing out. From how you prepare a team, and the biggest thing is physically, and it's something we've done, and I through consultation with a lot of experts around. It's you can't be the person who thinks they know everything, and we've created a pretty good formula of doing that, which has allowed us to get into league play over these last few years and really be in a good shape. So we hope that formula continues to work going into this season.
You touched there on some of the key changes in the squad. What for you was going into this offseason was one of the most important things for you to rejuvenate the keeper position? Obviously, you had let go both the keepers or didn't re-sign the keepers from last year, who both had varying degrees of success for you in their time at Forge. But was that like a key thing for you?
Well, of course, it's we've been blessed here, over the time we've been here with Tristan Henry and Jazz and Chris Kalongo before his injury as well, and just having an excellent, person in between the goalposts. So that was a key thing for us, and to bring in somebody that we can trust day in, day out. And the second, 2 things we looked at in this offseason is how do we still keep stability, which has been very crucial to the way we build through some of our players, but also in players that we bring in. Daniel Crutzen, Antoine Baptiste. These are guys that fit into the mold and the way we want to play. And the second part of what we wanted to do this offseason was freshen up and get a little bit younger, and bring some pieces in that, may be important this year, but may be even more important next year, because we think we've got a very good group all around. So I think those are the 2 things, we looked at in the players, and it kind of shows in the way we went about our signings, with Dimitri Berthaud, Antoine Baptiste, Daniel Crutzen providing that whole more of area of stability. And then Kivanta Vernier, Ishmael Okedokun, some of those younger guys coming in with a different energy. And then, waiting on some guys to continue their progress from last year, and Jose Masunda as an example, who needs to be a key player in the team this year.
And you talk about, the makeup of the league and the ability, everyone can sign anyone, but the restrictions or whatever. How did you go about, how did you scout Dimitri? How did that come about? Because it seems like a really great get for you guys, with who he is and his experience and his role in international football.
Yeah, there's different ways of doing it. Obviously, it's scouting and how we look at things is ongoing. We have to be very unique and open in the way we're doing things. And then sometimes what's important, the way we've always looked at it, is timing. There's different periods where markets are open in different parts of the world and they close, and players are free, and there's different situations. To be honest, some special players in the club, you have to be patient. So you have to make sure that you're really constantly working your network and following things. And sometimes, if I'm being honest, it's just not jumping on the first situation. We probably could have signed 3 to 4 keepers before Dimitri. But it's something I've learned. Is there a little bit of risk in that? Yes, but it's a formula we've used year in, year out with different players. Guys like Nana and Poma, as an example. In the past, Benny Baribanga. It's you got to be a little bit patient in certain areas, and it's traditionally why you don't see us sign a lot of players early on in the game.
Well, one last kind of question about the squad. You talk about the need to refresh, and like you said, having some players come in who maybe are more looking, to the future and down the road. How key will again this year the roles be for players like Kyle Becker and Tristan Borges and kind of some of the stalwarts you've had, or league stalwarts like Dan Nimick?
Yeah, you mentioned some guys that are obviously very key to a team. You look at Kyle Becker, and somehow he keeps on doing more and more as the years go on. Every offseason we're like, this may be it. And then you get a few games into the season, and you're like, geez, this guy's going to keep on going. And it's fantastic to watch. And you guys have the ability, and I hope you appreciate him. You get to watch him in the games. I appreciate him a lot in watching him in training. If you're ever able to watch him in training, you'll realize, why he's still doing what he's doing. Because what every player should be doing from a young age, and, whether it's the simplest exercise, his execution is always top. Whether there's a technical mistake or anything, which is rare, but whether it's there, everything is done to the best of its ability, to the sharpest of quality. And, it's phenomenal to watch. I mentioned two other key players in Tristan Borges. He's been a key guy for us throughout. And, we also usually know it's, last year maybe coming off of an MVP season, last year struggled a little bit with some injuries and so on. But we also know it's when he comes off of a year like that, it's usually the next year is an excellent one. And he's looked very good in preseason. And Dan Nimick, I think I've said this openly, and if I haven't, I think he's a top 6 center back in Canada. And I'm not talking about the Canadian Premier League. Having the ability to work with him last year and just work on some key areas that we identified as he came into the club here that he needed to improve. Just on both sides of the ball, and you see how quickly he picks up on that and how he's become a leader in here and just a big time player in big games, because that's football for the most part. It's being able to take those pressure moments and being able to have that stability through the season. He's been fantastic, and he'll hopefully be a rock for us again this year.
Just to touch on Kyle quickly, we had him on the show before your Tigres game. And it's the first time I've had a really long chat with him. And I came away from that so impressed by his attitude. And I said to Zach after it, I was like, he's the exact kind of guy you want on your team, because he just lives and breathes football and he wants success. But you could tell, like from what you said there, he has all the right things to succeed in the game.
Yeah, it's, just again, from his demeanor, how he walks in here, how you interact, and some of the players in here will tell you sometimes I'm even the hardest on him on certain issues, and his ability to take that information in a positive way is fantastic, and it's just an example for everyone else. If this guy's going out there and doing it, what choice do the rest of you, the players, have? And it's a great thing to have as a coach, and that creates that unity, that creates that culture in the club that's very important if you want to win. Because in sports and in everything, it's easy to be mediocre. It's easy to be good. It's tough to be excellent, because that takes constant work every day. That means I have to come in here as a player, not only as a player, as a coach, as a coaching team. I have to come in here every day and be prepared. And I have one motto. It's our staff. We've got to be more prepared than the players. We let our guard down. They let theirs down. It's pretty simple. So, it takes a lot of consistent work, and that's what it comes down to. I think, in sport and a lot of things, it's being consistent with what you're doing. Then being open with the players. That's a very important thing for me, and so that they can understand, in the end, what we'd like. Give them freedom in certain areas of the pitch and hold the reins in the other areas of the pitch. But yeah, Kyle is just fantastic overall, and as a coach, it's always a blessing to have a player like that on the pitch.
I mean, you talked about consistency. You've been consistently strong in this league from the start. 8th season gets underway on Saturday, and it's against Ottawa. Top 2 teams from last year. A lot was said around those games. It's always been a big rivalry with yourself and Cavalry. And Cavalry looks like Tommy's put together a really strong roster for the season as we went through it. It looks like it's probably going to be you three that's battling it out. How are you feeling about this season, who the main competitors are, and has the rivalry with Ottawa now ramped up a little bit?
Yeah, first, how I feel in general about the season. I always feel good about the competitors. One of my, key values is humility and being humble, and that's something across the team. So don't think we're any better than somebody. Don't look at the piece of paper. Don't look at the roster, because on any day anyone beats anyone in this league. So there's that. Obviously, our goal is to win trophies. That's for sure. Yeah, on the Ottawa front, we're right down the street from each other. I think it's a good thing that we've always got the target on our back. That means we've been doing some good things over the years. But yeah, for me, I just go out there and play football. I prepare the team to play, prepare the team to do everything that's needed, and then the rest I leave to you guys. That's your fun stuff for all the fans. And yeah, of course, I think it's some of the extracurriculars is always entertaining for the fans, but not something that I'm usually involved in any way, whether it's a pre-game press conference, post-game. It's my focus is always on Forge. We've got a rule in here that's 80-20. 80% of what we do is about ourselves. 20% will look at the opponent, and that's just us. That may be good, that may be bad. I don't know. So far, it works, but that's my humble view on it. But what we want always is the more competition, the better in the league. And I think that's the beauty of, the league starting on Saturday. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of different, there's some constant. And, I always say you always will know more over the first 7 games. Once everyone's played each other and so on, and things kind of go from there. I look at the last 2 seasons and it's, something very characteristic. It's, we go to the top of the table in week 17 in both of the last 2 seasons. Not week 1, not week 10, but week 17. And then we go forward. It's a marathon. It's a long grind. It's a tough league. And, it's a discussion I have with people outside the league because, they're like, how many teams? 8 teams. And immediately they do the math, 28 games. Oh, you play everyone 4 times. And the first thing, technical people will say is that's tough.
Yep.
Because, there's not much you can hide. There's not much you can do. When it gets later in the season, some games are heated, and then some games there may be a 20-point gap, which is dangerous on both sides. So it's a challenging league. So I think over the first few weeks of the season, you kind of see where everyone is. But like I said, for us, it's just making sure that we're on the right track as a group.
Last thing. There's going to be a lot of changes in the league this year. We had James Johnson on the show last week, and he was telling us about the plans to be on the linear TV, the announcements now out about the offside rule and the video review system. There's going to be a lot of new things for you to get around, a lot of the new thing for the players to get around as well, especially with the offside and the goalkeepers, with the 5-second rule. Referees and linesmen as well have to learn a lot. Is it a lot to take in at once? Do you think there might be some teething problems? Do you like these changes?
Yeah, I think when you look at them, you'll say, oh, it's a lot of things going on. But in reality, it comes down to 2 things, speed of play and hopefully more goals. And I love both. It's get the ball in 5 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever. I think that's a great thing for Forge. We play a lot of games in the past where it may take an opponent's goalie 45 seconds to get a goal kick in the field of play. So if we can speed up the game, I think that's a very good thing for us from there. And then on the offside, the idea is more goals. The idea is the advantage to the attacker. And we watch games in the Premier League or anywhere across the world, and somebody split hairs offside, and you don't have a goal.
Yeah.
It's so the intent was always right, but once you went into that whole VAR, and I think video support, the way we're going about it, as crazy as it sounds, it may be the future.
Right? I prefer it to VAR, I've got to say. It's like, don't review everything.
Well, that's what it is. It's like not everything's being reviewed. The referees are not reviewing it. It's kind of left to us. The referees will review goals, which is proper. They should, because that's a game-defining moment. But then the rest, it's, let it go. We've got a couple of challenges, and maybe we use one, maybe there's two in a game, and off you go. So I think it'll keep the speed of the play up. I think the offside rule, I think, is a good one. And now we have to see how it changes tactically. But we've been through this before. In 2019, we were the first league to play goal kicks inside the box, right? Because we started the season in April, and it was a rule coming into the leagues for June, similar. So we saw how that modernized football with pressing and build up and all of that stuff, that all just started in 2019. So this will have its little minuscule kinks, but it's great that we're the first ones to do it, and maybe we'll set some trends.
Hopefully. Thank you so much for your time today, Bobby. Could talk to you for hours on football, so thanks for coming on. Forge FC head coach Bobby Smyrniotis there, and great to get him on the show for such a lengthy chat. Could have talked to him for hours, to be honest. He's the kind of guy, and I think we're very lucky with that in Canadian football in general, and especially in the CPL, that we have got these coaches that you just want to sit down and talk to them for hours about football. I mean, we've both got so much time for Bobby with everything that he's achieved in the game in Canada, in the CPL, his growth of the game here in the country as well. I mean, he's a guy that I have to think, what motivates him? He's won it so much. What more can he do? And then you just listen to him there, and he's as hungry in season 8 as he was in season 1.
Yeah, he's a real steward of his club, obviously, as being a part of founding it, and in one sense, you could maybe even say birthing it out of the academy that he was, that was his academy, an academy that has played such a crucial role in Canadian football in these last few decades, that we've, talked about and noted in the past. And he has I think a really good perspective on the game. So I really appreciate his love for the game and all he's given to the game and the way he talks about the game. And he's fun to talk to about all that.
Now, if we look at Forge for this season, some big departures. Alexander Ashiniotti-Jonsson, who we had on the show last year, has moved on from the midfield. Harry Payton as well, moving on from the midfield. And Alessandro Hojapur has gone. David Chonier is gone from up front. But it's basically the key performers from last year. They're back. They've got Brian Wright up front again, Mo Babuli up front with him, Kyle Becker, Tristan Borges always making that midfield tick, Daniel Nimick, who I know you're not a fan of, but excellent defender, and he's there to marshal the back line. And you look at the new arrivals, one is a returning player, Daniel Crutzen, has come back to the team, but I think where they've probably strengthened the most is goodbye to keepers Jassim Kolilat and Chris Kalongo, and welcome between the sticks Dimitri Berto, Congolese international goalkeeper, 15 caps for Congo, and was excellent in their Champions Cup game that they had this year, both of them as well, and a very, very big improvement at the back there for Forge.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about this in the off season, looking at their side. We talked about it a lot during the season last year that their goalkeeping was, if not their weakest link, definitely one of them. And you can't have that. And Bobby knows that. Bobby knows you can't have a keeper that's going to potentially cost you games. Both the keepers last year did have their moments, especially Aquila that had some really big games for them, but neither were at the level of what Forge requires, and it appears like Dimitri Bertrand could be kind of just what they needed. He could be kind of like what was his name for him? Tristan Henry, the next Tristan Henry for them.
Yeah,
a player that can really win them games. As much as I know, I think it probably the longtime listeners of the show will know we probably made fun of Henry for some howlers over the years, but Henry was someone who really helped them like win competitions and win trophies. And I think they've taken a step in the right direction to kind of reclaim their place at the top of Canadian football when it comes to the Canadian Premier League.
And they definitely took a step back, and it ended also unsavoury with Henry as well. And we won't rake over all that again. But one final thing on Dimitri Berthaud: could we be seeing a CPL player at the World Cup this summer if he has a great start to the CPL campaign? If he plays as he did in the game against Tigres, could we see him make the DR Congo World Cup squad? He was on the outskirts of this current group that wasn't called in to the Interconfederation game that they won on Tuesday in dramatic style against Jamaica. But yeah, wouldn't write him off the way that he's been playing. He's got 15 senior national team caps to his name already. He played in 6 of Congo's World Cup qualifiers in the African qualifying. It would be great for him if he can make the World Cup. It would be great for Forge. It would be great for the CPL as well. So good luck to him. It's like this certainly looks like a step forward. They're going to be challenging at the top as they always do. And like it'll have stung them last year that they didn't get into the championship game. Yeah. And they've got a real rivalry going with Ottawa now, even though, like, when we spoke to Kyle Becker, he played it down and it's like, oh, we don't even talk about Ottawa. But you know that not only not making the championship game, but then seeing Ottawa win that championship game it's going to have stung them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they do have, I think, it feels like, I mean, there's a few things. I feel like they're the team with the most rivals, right? Because they have this natural rivalry with Cavalry FC because they were the kind of the best teams at the beginning of the league. They were also the 2 teams that were like birthed out of academies, if you will. The Bobby versus Tommy kind of thing. But then they have whether it's York United or Inter Toronto, they have like a GTA derby. They have a provincial derby against Ottawa, and then all the other clubs get up for their games with them because they have been the top dog. I mean, one of my favorite things about Afshin Gappi was how he loved to talk about his record against Forge, right? Especially away to Forge. Like, they did really, really well, especially in, I think, seasons 2 and 3, really, really well against Forge. But no, yeah, this, what they've got going with Ottawa, I think, is like Cavalry is on a competitive level. You know, with Inter Toronto, it's there's a little bit of geographical stuff there. That was obviously the inaugural game of the league as well. But no, the rivalry with Ottawa is one where they wouldn't admit this, but they know competitively they will give them a battle. Yeah, and you saw how well Forge played against Tigres, 0-0 in the first leg. Yes. They made a game of it in the second leg this year. They've been so unlucky with the draws that they've got in the Champions Cup. They've just got Mexican powerhouses all the time. But 3 times they've won the CPL regular season, 4 times they've won the championship game. Bobby's back-to-back Coach of the Year in the league. And you know that they're going to be there again. Before we get to that, let's just cover Ottawa a little bit in this part as well, since we have talked about them. They're the defending champions. They finished second in the regular season, 15 wins, 1 behind Forge, 11 draws, 1 more than Forge. Only lost 2 games as well, 54 goals for, 28 goals against. They finished 2 points back from Forge in the regular season, but as we know, they went on and won the championship game against Cavalry to win their first ever CPL title. They're going to want to go and do it again. And there's been a lot of movement on this team. They've lost some big pieces. Absolutely.
Nathan Ingham in goal. not my favourite goalkeeper in the league. I think he is prone to make mistakes, but he's a very, very good player.
Yep.
Defensively, Amir Didic, they've lost him. Another big loss. In the midfield, Verhoeven, Abubakar, Sissoko moving on. Sam Salter up front, though, huge loss, as with David Rodriguez. Their two highest scorers from last year, both of them moving on. Salter over to Europe. Rodriguez back to Mexico, where he hasn't really been playing as well. And between the two of them, two of their three highest scorers, Salter, 19 goals last year, Rodriguez 9. Rodriguez led the team as well in assists with 8. Balou Tabla in between the two of them with goals. And Tabla, obviously, one of the players that has come back. But they've got to find those 28 goals from between the two of them from somewhere, and 11 assists between the two from Rodriguez and Salter as well. And you've also got Manny Aparicio, who's a player that can contribute in the assist category, and he is back. But some big attacking pieces to try and replace there.
And it will be interesting to see if they can do what they did last year. I mean, we talk about, Cavalry Forge having this kind of advantage from the onset of the league with having these academies. The one thing that we maybe don't talk about enough is when you're talking about Atletico Ottawa, they also have a significant advantage over other teams where they're part of a multi-club ownership, obviously with, Atletico Madrid and whatever it is, 3, 4, 5 other clubs that they own around the world. And so a player like Rodriguez was a free loan to them last year, where it does not hit their salary budget at all. So you have like the MVP of the league being in your club for free is crazy, and is a massive advantage that Ottawa had last year. That it's weird that they didn't, that the overall Atletico overlords didn't say, yeah, stay there for the Champions League at least. Mm-hmm. To me, especially if he went back and and hasn't played. But you're right. Sam Salter had a crazy year setting records in the league, and is off to join Matteo Di Prien there in Sweden. And I hope that he kind of keeps kicking on. But yeah, I don't know where the goals are going to come by with these players they signed.
They're very intriguing, because the thing is, like with David Rodriguez, like people didn't really know him either. And you saw how well he adapted to the league. He was a player I was even like, Whitecaps should try and have a look to see if they can get him. I still would. I think he was excellent. But you look, they've got 2 more players on loan from Atletico de San Luis. And it's a 21-year-old attacking midfielder, Jonathan Villal, and 22-year-old forward, Emiliano Garcia.
Yeah.
So are they going to be another David Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping, but no one knows yet. And that's the thing. I didn't know much about David Rodriguez until I saw him in the opening. I think it was the opening game of the season at Willoughby last year, and he just ghosted past everyone to go through almost the whole team and score. And you're like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this guy's decent.
Yeah, I mean, it was the second game. I can't remember, but it was early in the season. And you're like, shoot, like this guy, he's a baller, and he cost them literally nothing, and this is going to be a problem this year. And they went on and did the business at the business end of the season. You're right. It will be interesting to see how these new loans play out. But yeah, what do you think about Cam Habibullah going?
Yeah, see, it's interesting that he's trying to like kickstart his career there. He's kind of bounced about a bit. Mm-hmm. You feel this is his last chance to really make it. And I wish him well. There's a good player in there. He just needs... There was reasons that he wasn't getting the minutes with the Whitecaps. And then he went off to Pacific and didn't really do it there either. I hope he comes in and does well. They have, of course, added the big Norwegian Erling. Just sadly not Haaland for them. Yeah. But Erling, I love this name. Erling Flotva Mikkelbust.
Yeah.
29-year-old. He's just bounced about Norwegian football, can certainly score. His last team, Asani, in the first division of Norway, which is the second tier of Norwegian football. 26 goals from 97 appearances. He's put big numbers up at teams in a level that I don't know much about second tier Norwegian football. Is it on a par with the CPL? Is it better than the CPL? Is it worse than the CPL? So he could be another player that just comes in and just blows you away this year.
Also, their latest signing, Wesley Timoteo from who was previously at Halifax, is an interesting pickup for them at fullback.
Yeah, that's a good defensive strengthening as well, and they've kept the core of the defence together. Obviously, losing Didic was a tough one, and Brett Levi's, who played more in the midfield for them, he's retired now. But yeah, Ottawa's going to be there or thereabout again. If we're looking at the top of the table, do you see it? That's going to be these two battling it out again? And if so, who do you think's got the upper hand this year?
Yeah, I think it's hard to see past the two of them plus Cavs, to be honest. In terms of upper hand, I think it's all going to be dependent on how all the new players kind of play out for each of the clubs. Like I said, with Forge, their keeper could be the missing ingredient that does put them over the top. They have some wily veterans who know how to score, know how to grind in this league, grind out wins. And yeah, I maybe give the edge to Forge at the moment based on kind of known commodities, plus what we saw in the Champions League CONCACAF Champions Cup this year.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. For me, I think it's Forge, but I'm really curious to see how Ottawa defend their title. Yes. And their head coach, Diego Mejia. I mean, Mejia, Vanni on the touchline in games against each other is going to be interesting. Two very hot-headed, volatile coaches. I think their pre-match and post-match things could be fun as well. But yeah, I see those two battling it out. But I think they could get pushed all the way, if not even pipped to first place by Cavalry FC. We've talked about 4 of the 8 teams. With 4 more to bring you. We'll do that in the last part. And we'll be back with that after this episode song from NME's iconic C86 cassette.
Hi, I'm Tommy Wilden Jr. and you are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
The beautiful, sparkling, healthy spa water of Bath in Avon.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part is this episode's song from the groundbreaking NME C86 cassette, the influential mail order cassette that we are paying a 40th anniversary tribute to this year. And this episode's song, Zach, one I've been looking forward to playing, Perennial AFTN favourites, Half Man Half Biscuit, and that was track 15 on the cassette. I Hate Nerys Hughes, From the Heart. One of the more loud and aggressive tracks on the cassette. Certainly very different from the kind of jangly guitar sound to a lot of the songs on C86. Nerys Hughes, just a Welsh actress that appeared in shows like The Liverbirds and some other sitcoms. I don't know why Half Man Half Biscuit hated her so much. The band from Birkenhead in the Wirral have probably had the best career of all the bands featured on the cassette. They had already released their first album back in the DHSS in 1985, and their iconic first EP, The Trumpton Riots, came out in 1986, which features their classic All I Want for Christmas is a Dukla Prague Away kit. They were then featured on the C86 cassette, kind of sent them stratospheric. They were loved by the legendary DJ John Peel, which also helped. He championed them so much. The track you heard there, I Hate Nerys Hughes, also features on their debut album. Great song, great band. We've played them a lot, especially in Wavelength over the years. They're former Artist of the Month as well here at AFTN. Love that song. We'll be back with track 16 from the C86 cassette in the next episode of the show. So 4 teams down in our 2026 CPL preview, 4 to go. We mentioned Cavs at the end of the last part. Let's kick off this part talking about one of our other favourite teams from the CPL, Cavalry FC. Love the team, love what Tommy's done with them. And their story of 2025, not the best regular season that they've had. They finished 3rd overall, 42 points from 11 wins, 9 draws and 8 defeats, 47 goals scored, 36 against. Ali Musi led their goal scoring with 9 goals. In the Canadian Championship, your very own Vancouver FC knocked them out in a shock result, it has to be said. I don't think too many folk gave VFC a chance the way that things had gone.
But it was, remember, in a shootout. So they've still never lost a competitive match to Vancouver FC, which means Marco Carducci has never lost a competitive match to Vancouver FC.
Yeah.
We'll see if that gets changed soon.
That might change very soon, because Marco, one of the guys that has moved on from Cavalry FC for the 2026 season. Now, the Cavs picked themselves up, dusted themselves down, and got all the way to the championship game in the horrendous snow that was played in Ottawa, going down in extra time to Ottawa. A result that have been a real gut punch to everyone at the Cavs and to Tommy Wheeldon. This year is going to be weird because there's some players on the team that's been with them for a long time, in some cases from the start, that are not going to be back. The main one being their leader, Marco Carducci at the back. Tom Field, we talked about him with Vancouver FC, he's headed there. Fraser Ayers left in the defence, Callum Montgomery. Michal Gerazimenkov was on loan last year. He's with the Whitecaps now and doing well in the first team. They lost Diego Gutierrez in the midfield, Shamit Shom, now with unattached FC. And up front, Eamon Salouf, who didn't have a great season. Nicholas Walling, the German as well. But back for them up front is Toby Warshevsky. Ali Musi, who looked like had moved on, has now come back to the Cavs as well. And they've added Nathan Ingham in goal for Marco Carducci. So that is a very good replacement. Also taken from Ottawa, Amir Dinic. Massive defensive addition. Harry Payton's come in from Forge in the midfield. 3 big additions there. And Adam Perlman has come in on loan from Toronto FC. I think Cavalry are going to push Forge in Ottawa all the way this year.
I think of those additions, Adam Perlman, I'm interested to see what happens with him there. But yeah, Payton, I think, will contribute. Amir Didic, it'll be like, how has he recovered? Because, yeah, when you look at the list of players that you read off there that went out, it's like a who's who of Cavs in the CPL era.
Yeah.
But then they've replaced them with big names. And you also got to remember, some guys came back halfway through the year last year or whatever, like Dan Klomp is back. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
CPL defense with Dan Klomp and Amir Didic? Like that's
Oh,
going to be brutal on set plays, both attacking and defending.
yeah. They are going to be a very hard team to score against this year.
Yeah, I know Marco, who again another dude we've known for over half his life, who we deeply appreciate. He would probably tell you, last year was not his best season, or maybe the last couple of years were not. I mean, I know they won stuff, but maybe for on a personal level, he wasn't at his highest heights. I think Ingham is a downgrade. I think Ingham's
Yeah.
he's not a bad keeper. I
It's
just
not a
think.
huge downgrade, I
Uh,
don't
I,
think.
I think time will tell. He's just so prone to a clanger so often. It's gonna be really, really interesting. I know they also re-signed Joseph Holiday, one of their backups. We talk about Digits and Klomp. We didn't even mention Levi Lang, this big kid who I
Mm.
forget, I think came to the Arsenal youth system or whatever. Like they are just so solid at the back with good attack. To me, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that midfield this year with some of the players that they've moved on, and who's going to step up and kind of play a bigger role. Maybe Harry Patton will kind
Yeah,
of fill
like
some of that void.
Peyton will definitely be a starter, I think. You've got Camargo there. Michael Baldissimo was an addition midway during the season as well. Cobbs had a pretty good season. I mean,
Uh,
I'm just looking
Co-
at their squad, actually. It's like there's so many standout players in that squad. I mean, I genuinely think they'll be pushing for top two in the
yeah,
regular
I,
season.
I think it's the three-way fight for the top. It's a three-headed beast.
I also would not be surprised if they win the whole thing. Maybe
No,
even do the elusive double because they've certainly got a squad that can do it. Tommy has built this squad superbly for the year. And of course the Whitecaps could be playing cavalry again in the Canadian Championship if
what a
they get
battle
past
that'll be!
Pacific FC.
What a battle that
Yeah,
will
I
be!
tell you that's a tough one for them if that is what it ends up proving to be. So I mean I think they're going to be right at the top. Let's turn our attention talking of charismatic head coaches like Tommy, Vanni Sartini. They kick off here in Vancouver this weekend against Vancouver FC. Will we see the Vanni effect that he had at the Whitecaps in Halifax? I think he's made some very interesting additions. Now, this is another team that has had a lot of turnover. They've lost their goalkeeper in Yesley, but they've got an upgrade in that because you've brought in Marco Carducci.
And it is an upgrade.
Yes. You've lost Wesley Timoteo, but they've added defensively Finn Linder, who was with Whitecaps too, New Zealand international, excellent player. They also Francesco Troisi from the Whitecaps Academy, another defender.
Yeah.
Former Whitecap Marcus Godinho, former Canadian international Marcus Godinho. So defensively, they've added some really good pieces as well. In the midfield, they lost Sean Rea and Jeremy Gagnon Lapar. Alessandro Biello moved on as well. Midfield wise, they've still got Andre Rampersad, Lorenzo Caligari, who I think had a pretty decent season last year as well. I feel the midfield is maybe where they're at the weakest and they haven't strengthened enough there.
Yeah, lots of turnover for them with Vanny coming in. Really, really interesting. I don't know. Did you mention Thiago Coimbra?
No. So yeah, up front they lost Coimbra, who was a big fan of.
Did they sell him to Sweden? I can't remember. He
I'll
went to
check
he went
that
to he
as
went
we're
to
chatting.
he went
But they have brought in another Whitecap on loan from Whitecaps too, Cyprian Kitchwelly, who
yes.
Axel spoke to me about 2 years ago now that they were very high on him, but he's had injury problems, and I think they now feel he needs tested at another level just to see what he's got. He's a striker, Tanzanian international as well, and I think that's a really good pickup by Vanni.
Yeah, he's the kind of player I was maybe hoping Vancouver FC would look at.
It's more their midfield, I think, that is my concern. I don't know that they've got enough there.
I think that's fair criticism.
Yeah, Halifax sold Coimbra
Yeah.
to Gothenburg for €255,000 fee, according to
Right.
Transfer Market.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Vanny adapts to the CPL and how flexible he is with his convictions. I think that's going to be. I look forward to hopefully talking to him in some of the pre-match stuff, post-match stuff, obviously in person on the weekend. Overall, in his time as a Whitecap, he became kind of felt a little bit inflexible with things. Is he coming in with these types of ideals that his players will not be able to live up to?
Yeah.
Expectations, and
also much tighter restraints than he's ever had before.
For roster building, absolutely.
Yeah. But he is head coach and general manager. So he's in control of the whole shebang now. So this is the Vanny show.
Which, again, means he has no excuses.
Yeah. This is the biggest test he's had. Like, you could say Whitecaps going into an MLS team from U23 is his biggest test. But now he's got so much to prove that wasn't just a flash in the pan, that he really is a good coach. Yeah. I think he can do it. I think he's got the squad. I'll say again, three of the midfields, maybe what might let him down. I can't see them challenging the top three, but they should be in the battle for fourth. If they play at their levels, because we'll move on into Toronto in a sec. I think for me, it's between Halifax and Inter Toronto for that fourth spot. I think Vancouver FC, sixth, just outside the playoffs, but very much in touch of a playoff spot for much, if not right to the very end of the season.
My initial thought, Michael, is that you're going to see, I know in previous years there's been one or two splits within the league, and you're kind of battling within them. I think the top three, which we already talked about, Cavs, Forge, and Ottawa, are kind of the one tier. I think Pacific, who we've already talked about, are alone at the bottom. And I think those other four teams are kind of battling it out for that fourth playoff spot this year. I think those four are gonna go hard at each other. Vancouver FC, Halifax, Inter, and Supra might be. Sorry, maybe I need to put Supra on the bottom.
Oh, that's why I was like, wow, yeah, you're really favouring Supra. I mean, Halifax were fourth last year. They pipped York United as they were by a point. They had 39, just 3 back of Cavalry in the end. 11 wins, 6 draws, 11 losses. So it's a good base for Vanny to build from. He'll say it's a long-term work in progress, 4-year contract, whatever. You don't want to see regression, because already the pressure will be on him if they regress. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Halifax. If we look into Toronto, York United, they were 5th last year, 10 wins, 8 draws, 10 defeats, 38 points. They scored more goals than Halifax, but they let in more goals than Halifax as well. They've got a new name, they've got a new look, and there's not been a lot of turnover. I think Eustáquio's kept his core together. Big players that's maybe moved on in the midfield, Elijah Adekugbe.
Yeah.
Shan Handel and Massimo Ferrin and Adonijah Reid up front. So that was their 3 kind of big players up front. Diego Urtiaga, who got a lot of the games in goal, has also moved on as well. You look at who they've brought in. Big upgrades on those guys that they lost. Ollie Bassett in the midfield.
Yep.
Former player of the year. Raul Lopez defensively. Up front, Benny Baribanga.
Yeah.
Can he have the form that he had with Forge?
That'll bring some spice to that derby.
Oh, yeah. Especially because he left kind of under interesting circumstances as well. Antonio Campos coming in goal. Defensively, Carlos Guzman, Sebastian Gonzalez and Tomas Skublak up front. Some players that people won't know a lot about, but they're adding to an already good core. The young lad, Shola Jimo, is this going to be his big year, his big breakout year as a regular starter and contributor?
Yeah, what can Julian Altobelli do this year? He had scored in bunches last year. Will he be able to reproduce that? I know he probably won't necessarily start every game, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Gabriel Bitar. It'll be interesting to see how he's a part of what Eustáquio wants to do this year. But I would say they do have actually quite a solid group of defenders, which should, in theory, give them a good platform to build off.
And they've got some potent attackers as well. Again, it's maybe how the midfield plays in this. Like, if when you delve into that, into Toronto roster, that in some areas is actually better than Halifax's.
Yeah, at the moment, anyways, for sure.
Yeah. But of course, it's how everyone performs on the pitch. And it feels it's another big season for a coach in Eustachio, young, coming in last year, learning, but you need to build on that now. And it's like how the owners into Toronto, they need success. They've put a lot of money into this club. They've got their academy. They're playing in the Ontario Premier League. They want results. They want to be a playoff team. They want to go far in the playoffs as well. Ollie Bassett is, I think this club could live or die by how well Bassett does in his return to the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And they're obviously they're banking on that.
Yeah. I mean, up front, like if Barry Banga can get that forge form on the wing, and if Sebastian Gonzalez, he's a Peruvian that's you imagine is going to lead the line for them, can do the business as well as Julian Altobelli, it's going to be a hard team to stop scoring.
Yep.
And as you say, they've got a good defence as well. The more we get into this, the tastier the league sounding this year, I've got to say. And that just leaves us with one team, the Newbies Supra du Quebec, to give them their full name. All new players, of course, because it's the new expansion side. And there's some players that we know, David Chonrea, Abubakar Sissoko, Alessandro Biello.
And there's only one you're missing that I'm interested in. Those four, they're all midfielders, I believe. Yeah, those four midfielders, I think, are going to be really interesting to watch. Very experienced within the league. The one player that you didn't mention, which I think will be interesting, is a player. It's maybe because his full name is maybe listed there, but it's Abzi. I don't know if you remember him back in the day. He was the left back with York United. They sold him to Pau FC in France. Pau FC went on loan to CD Leganes. You might remember them from such players as Alan Enu and Uatara, I think, as well.
I mean, that's really the only way I remember them, but yeah.
When he was with them, he won the Segunda. I think he won the title there with them. And then he went back to Pau, and then his time ended at Pau, and now he signed with Supra.
But you know why his time ended at Pau? He failed a drug test and was banned for 2 years.
Oh yeah, 2024.
Yeah.
What was the substance?
Marijuana. Which a 2-year ban for that does seem quite extreme. Maybe that's just our Canadian way of thinking, but
or is it not legal in France?
Well, it's definitely not legal in France.
Oh, okay.
So it will be a banned substance, but 2 years for that seemed like
so. He's a player coming in with a lot to prove.
Yeah,
and he's a player in this league that. In 40 games, he only has 6 goals and 4 assists, which maybe that doesn't sound that impressive. But in the early days of the league, he was a threat for York 9, and he is a player.
7 goals with York in 64 games.
But yeah, he's a player with a lot to prove, and I think can really provide a significant part of their attack coming from either left back or if they decide to push him up the field at left wing.
The whole thing with Supra. I want them to do so well. I'd love them to have a great first season because the league needs it. Canada needs it. Quebec needs it. And with how CF Montreal are doing just now, I think the fans there just need a successful team to cheer on. Now, from what I'm reading, they've basically sold out their home opener. So it's what their crowds are going to be like as the season goes on. Their approach of primarily signing Quebec-born players or players with a kind of French connection is an intriguing one. It's been tried to a way lesser extent with like BC players here. For example, Vancouver FC tried that in their second year and it didn't fully work out, but they had other players sprinkled in as well. I love the idea. Because it's like one of our own who's one of our own and all that stuff. It's what you want. You want to cheer on the local guys. The guys, he just grew up a few miles from here or whatever. So I hope it works out for them. But also the flip side of that is it's the recipe for going horribly wrong for them.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm excited to see how Nick Ragazzi does at this level. He's obviously... most people know him from his time with CS Saint Laurent and their foray into the Canadian Championship for the Voyageurs Cup. But it'd be interesting to see how he does. Also, it's a club that's being run by Rocco Placentino, a player you and I both watched play for l'Impact de Montreal, and the former coach and administrator is an executive advisor, Nick DeSantis. So it has
Yeah.
this flair of and flavor of both old school and new school Montreal football, which is really, really exciting. The one thing I want to say, and I don't say this to be negative or to put shade or whatever, but one thing I would say is I do feel for them because, and I haven't followed this conversation up, but this is I think a simple observation that can be made. I feel for them because the situation feels a little bit similar to the launch of Vancouver FC.
Yeah, I knew that's what you were going to say.
Because it feels like this is a rushed launch. In the same way that Vancouver FC came a year early because of the demise of FC Edmonton, it feels like this club in the province of Quebec or suburban Montreal is coming early because of the demise or short, long term
It's demise. They're not coming
demise
back.
of Valor FC in Winnipeg, and the league really needs a balanced schedule.
Yeah, you need 8 clubs, and you've needed to get in to this area. But yeah, the timing, the short build up, it's not.
So I feel from in that. I
Yeah.
hope it doesn't become an excuse when they're reflecting on the season in whatever October, November, or whatever. I wish them well. You and I have had conversations with each other and with other people in terms of the league's approach of continuing to go into the communities that already have an MLS team and the pros and cons of that. I just think that's what it simply is. I think the tension is there. The tension is real. And I think both sides are valid points. The one perspective is don't go into the communities where they already have an MLS team. Go to places where, like a Halifax, where you're going to be top dog or one of the top dogs in town, and you're going to
And
be
you've
able to.
you've seen the success in the stands in that regard.
Exactly.
I mean, the only thing is like they're going to be playing out of Laval,
Yeah.
and I know from some folk I've spoken to, it's like although it's like suburban or outskirts of Montreal, it is kind of they feel it's different
Yeah.
than Montreal. So I guess it's like Langley and Vancouver,
Yeah.
if you look at it that way.
Yeah, you're right. It's not like they're in the heart of Montreal. The other perspective is, of course, you can't just go into, Kitchener-Waterloo and Halifax and Moncton and Saskatoon and whatever, and be able to try and bring in big sponsors and grow a digital and a linear TV, accessibility for your league and all that kind of stuff. You need the Torontos, the Vancouvers, the Montreals. You need the bigger
Yeah.
bigger places.
It's why the NSL went to the markets that
Exactly.
they went to.
Exactly. But at the same time, the perspective that, hey, it would be nicer if these could be more like Halifax, where the community rallies around them because there is no other football club and or there's less sports in general.
But they're also going in at a time when so many CF Montreal fans are hating their team and they're maybe looking for something new.
True.
The only kind of thing I can kind of put it akin to, it's like the Man United fans that went off and formed FC United of Manchester.
Yeah.
They're so disillusioned with Man United. It's like, we want something else that we actually feel part of. And these fans can now feel part of that. Laval's got such a rich football and culture as well, with the university soccer there. It's nice that Nick Rizzagi's getting the job after doing so well with CS Saint Laurent as well. Now, I know it didn't work out great for Patrice Geyser, but I love to see that promotion from League One as was into this level. I just wish them all the best. I hope they have a great first season, and I just hope it works out for them. But yeah, we'll see how they do. We'll see how everyone does. I've got to say, I mean, I hope the listeners feel the same way. After going through that, I'm quite enthused for this season.
There's still opportunity for clubs to sign players. I know Vancouver.
Oh, yes.
Vancouver FC has one more player that should get announced this week that's simply been a visa issue. And you talk about some of those unattached guys, players who've left clubs who haven't found clubs. I wonder how many more of those will, populate rosters, in these next few weeks. And there's probably still a few international signings coming as well, I would imagine, between now and the first couple weeks of the season, and if not, then definitely in the mid-season.
Exciting stuff. CPL gets underway this weekend. The BCPL gets underway on Thursday with a game at Burnaby Lake between TSS Rovers and Burnaby FC. I'll have the BCPL game of the week on Sunday on the men and the women's side, which is Altitude against Unity. So a lot of football to be looking forward to. I hope you've enjoyed our CPL preview. I've really enjoyed it. It's got me enthused for the season to come, and I can't wait for what lies ahead. But that is it now for the football chat. We will finish, of course, with this episode's Wavelength. We're into a new month. We're out of Football Violence Awareness Month, and we're back doing our World Cup songs in the build-up to the World Cup. And for the next two shows, I've brought us right up to date songs from 2026 for Scotland. And if I want to continue bringing you new songs for the 26 World Cup, I would get used to most of them being for Scotland or England. That is just a tradition over there to get World Cup songs done, and is also one of the sad reasons not to have Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales in the tournament, because there would have been a whole lot more songs in English for those teams as well if they had qualified. Now, the hard thing about this year's World Cup and the new songs getting released is there's a lot of other songs out there, and a lot of them are very clearly, some of them stated, some of them not, AI songs. And ideally, I'm not wanting to play any AI generated songs in the section of the show, just songs by proper artists. And a lot of people have sent me this, and it came up in my YouTube recommendations as well. It's an absolute fantastic song. It's really starting to pick up some traction. It's doing the rounds. It's by JJ Bull. Very much an LCD sound system kind of vibe to it. This is JJ Bull, the very unofficial Scotland World Cup song, Bread and Circuses.
Hampden Park kinda sucks, but I will go there anyway. I think that we might lose, but I will go there anyway. Because I wanna see Kenny McLean from 50 yards. I think that he might score. Kieran Tierney from 30 yards. Oh, I know he's gonna score. It's coming dominate with a bicycle kick. I know he's gonna score. He's Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay, Ballon d'Or. Canada is I wanna see Kenny McLean from 50 yards. Cause I know he's gonna score. Kieran Tierney from 30 yards. Oh, I know he's gonna score. And Scott McTominay with a bicycle kick. I know he's gonna score. He's Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay, Ballon d'Or.
JJ Bull with his very unofficial Scotland World Cup song, Bread and Circuses. That's what he's calling it. I'm not giving it that very unofficial title. I think that should be up there with an official release. It is that good. And I was going to bring that out in the next show, but so many people had mentioned it and tagged me in it and sent me it that I thought, let's kick it off this month with this song. We've got another Scotland song, though, to come in the next episode of the show. If you do find some non-AI World Cup songs released ahead of this year's tournament, please continue to let me know, either on Twitter, AFTN Canada, Blue Sky AFTN, or email aftncanada@hotmail.com. We'll also delve into the archives as well, as we've been doing to start the year. But that is it now for the show. Just before we go though, Zach, any final thoughts from yourself?
But yeah, get out to, what's the name of the Premier League BC?
Premier League.
BC Premier League, and get out to the CPL game. Just for some of those who I know are frustrated, because I know there's some people who like to double dip when they can. And
yeah,
go to VFC
I'm one of the frustrated folk because it's very tight.
Yeah, is not VFC's choice. Let's put it that way.
And if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, the VFC game, 4 o'clock kickoff, that will probably start about 4:10. Whitecaps play Portland at what will be 7:40. So there is time to get from both. From our point of view, from a media side, a lot less time. But
that's the thing, is like, so many people, you know how many people, Whitecaps fans, love Vanny.
Yeah.
That they would have loved to come.
This is on the league. This is on the broadcasting. But this is terrible planning.
Yeah.
It's
a huge missed opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing, because this could have been a really good turnout. It would be a nice send-off to Vanny as well, as a thank you. Totally. Lots of fans would have liked to have gone, and the hope would be they would see a great game of football and be like, oh, I want to go and watch more of this.
Yeah, just like many people who saw the cup final were like, oh, I should watch some more Vancouver.
Or the Cruz Azul game.
Or the Cruz Azul game.
The atmosphere and everything.
They acquitted themselves well, yeah. So it's a missed opportunity for the league. Unfortunately, it's an unforced error from the club, or a missed opportunity from the club that they don't have a choice in. So feel bad for them. But yeah, get out and watch some local football this week. Yeah, it's exciting times.
It certainly is. A lot of football, MLS, CPL, BCPL. The Provincial Cup will be starting as well. And then the NSL kicks off later this month. Then it's the World Cup. When we talk about feasts of football, it doesn't get bigger than this. That is it for another episode of the show. We'll be back with another one soon. We'll be looking over the Whitecaps game against Portland. We'll talk about the start of the CPL season. And we'll talk Canada in their preparation for the World Cup. As always, thanks for listening. Take care, and mon the CPL.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pipe for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Oh, everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.
Yeah, but